show starts in Gibbering.
Welcome to Tuesday Night Hero World Class Bullshitters. I'm your host, Jeff Hicks, and with me tonight are my co-hosts. Many varied co-hosts tonight. I'm excited, folks. It's been a couple Tuesdays since we've had a show, and now we're back, and we're bringing you the Re-Coloring of Snape. Yeah, you saw that title card. It's exactly what you think. He's turning red and blue and purple. But no, folks, I am joined by my co-host. First off, you know him, you love him all the way from the Rippaverse. Say hello to Andy Andrew.
What's going on, Jeff? What is going on, chat? It is good to be back. It's good to be here with you all every single Tuesday night at 8, except for the shows that I'm not here. In that case, you get to enjoy not hearing my voice, but it's great to be back, and I cannot wait to get into this topic with y'all because there's a lot to talk about.
Oh yeah, folks, this is going to be a fun one. So sit down, get ready, and send in anything that you want to say about Harry Potter as well, or anything about character changes. But we'll get to that in just a moment, because I have a lot to say, and I want to hear what you have to say. But another man who I want to hear what he has to say comes from the Great White North. Say hello to the Script Doctor.
Hello, happy to be here. We got a good show on the way. And I'm excited to listen to the two Harry Potheads below me.
Wow.
About their
She's the bigger one.
Wow. I don't know how to feel about that.
Take it as a point of pride.
It is, yeah.
Sure.
That's the term, right? Potheads?
It's Potterheads, but yes.
Potterheads. Okay.
It'd be a lot cooler if it was the other one. Then maybe I'd listen to Harry Potter. Never mind.
Wow.
Folks,
Wow, that's rude.
it's been a long time since we've had her here on the channel. Welcome back, Mary Mayhem.
Jeff, I'm so glad to see you. I had the best time getting to hang out with you back around Halloween last year. That was so much fun. So I appreciate you.
I had a great time as well. It was you, me, Proper, Valiant Renegade. We had a hell of a time. Folks,
Yeah.
you guys missed out on a good time. We went to Kings Island. We went to dinner. We went to the USS Nightmare. We were freezing our asses off down by the river. It was a good time.
You had to
Maybe
steal
we'll
my
have to do it
hat.
again this year.
You had to steal my hat. I felt like a gallant, chivalrous lad. I got to give Jeff my hat. I was the knight in shining armor.
Sure, we'll call
Kind of fun.
armor or sweatshirt.
Or it's a sweatshirt. That's what it was. It was fun. I had a blast. So yeah.
Folks, thank you for joining us tonight. We have all sorts of topics we're going to get into, but let's start the shows off like we do with the word of the day. But it wasn't Shrubbles 08 that brought us the word of the day. It was Swift -1. And the word of the day is Swift. Swiftcraft. Cap Swift. The Swift in the Yard. Swift Bag. Swift 17. Swift White. Crouching Tiger. Sorry. Crouching Tailor. Hidden Swift.
Oh,
and
that's
Swifts
pretty-
on a plane.
Wow.
Those are
let's
some
see.
pretty good ones.
You smell
Yeah.
unhealthy obsession.
12 Angry Swifts.
12 Angry Swifts.
12 Angry Swifts.
The 12 Days of Swiftness.
The Swift, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Oh my gosh.
Not bad.
I'm not
How
gone with the
Stole
Swift.
Christmas. There you
There you
go.
go.
With the Swift.
And a fistful of Swift. Oh, wait, that was already said. So
Jingle all the Swift.
Ocean Swifty. Ocean Swifty.
Swifty by the dozen.
Ooh.
Dude, where's my Swift?
Dude, where's my Swift? I love that. I'm here for that. Captain Swift. Oh wait, he put that on there. Never mind.
Back, yeah.
No repeats. Do you lose points if you repeat somebody else's Swift?
Yes, you do. And if you have
Oh, okay.
lost at least 1 point on the show, Mary, our old pal Buffalo Jeff has to come out and visit. So
Leave me alone! No!
at some point tonight, if I can get this browser to work, we
Uh-oh.
have, since you've been here, we've had new Buffalo Jeff buttons. I'm not sorry. So in the words of Joe Exotic,
Guess what, motherfucker?
Oh, there it is. Okay. It's all right. I will brace myself for it. I
Mary,
knew when I accepted it, I was gonna have to engage that some.
I have great news for you too, Mary. It's WrestleMania week. The biggest week in the history of pro wrestling is right now. Las Vegas, Nevada. WWE. John Cena's a heel. We're going to change your life tonight. Folks, if you want to troll Mary Mayhem, you know what to do.
You may try. I can't begin to tell you how little I care. So
You'll care.
Only in tears, only because you've made me so miserable with all of your absurd wrestling swiftiness. Ooh.
Well, look, Taylor Swift is going to be at WrestleMania, so maybe you should watch.
She is not.
Well, because she can afford tickets.
Yeah, Taylor Swift.
It's still cheaper than tickets to her concert.
That's true. They have
Oh my gosh.
dropped the ticket price massively to the point where I looked yesterday to see if I was still going to go to Las Vegas.
Mm.
The answer is no, because Dion and his wife are going to come here, so we're going to have a WrestleMania party here. So it'll be just as fun.
There you go.
Sejorjan, thank you very much. By the way, Sejorjan, you should check your email. You have received an email from me about a package. Is the reason why Blue Origin crew is all women because the satellite dishes up in space need cleaning? Hi, kid.
Wow.
Wait, load
Wow, wow, wow.
Dion button.
Wow, wow,
No, the actual astronauts up there required sandwiches.
Rude.
So they didn't. They picked these 6 women on the planet that don't know how to make a sandwich.
It's fair.
At least it's better than the 6 women on the planet that, at least it's better than most of the women on the planet that don't know how to drive, because they could have just crashed the space rocket.
Oh
Well, that's
yeah,
why I had
that
an
rocket is
autopilot.
fully automated. Of course, no one is surprised to see this group of women basically ride a giant phallic object right into space.
Oh my lord.
Wow.
Well,
I thought that
the women
the
they
irony wasn't lost on
selected.
me.
Didn't they select like people like Katy
Kate-
Perry and stuff?
Yep.
It should have been Taylor
Yeah.
Swift.
Gail King. Just a weird, real weird amalgamation of people.
They selected a bunch of floozies to go into space to ride the phallic object. That makes complete sense to me. So it's fine. This is fine.
Is it wrong that when I watched it launch yesterday, I was thinking of Challenger?
Oh
Is
God!
this gonna... Thank you. I was like,
God.
is this gonna blow up on live TV? Am I gonna see this happen? And then it took off and it was fine, and I went, okay, time to take a shower.
You were like, dang it.
Wow.
It's like NASCAR. I watch a rocket launch for the explosions. I watch a submarine launch for the implosions. I'm
Wow.
a masochist.
Wow.
That's awful.
Wait,
but it's still
masochists-
funny.
I thought it was sadists. Masochists enjoy pain being done to them, whereas sadists enjoy doing it to others, right?
It's emotional pain.
It's one of them.
I enjoy
It's
it.
emotional pain. I'm tracking. All right. Good deal.
Folks, if you enjoy emotional pain, hit that thumbs up button. If you don't like emotional pain, hit that thumbs up button too. It helps the algorithm. But Sejorjan had a button request, Mary. You're going to love it.
Hello, Dion.
What is wrong with you? What was that?
Oh, you should see what I have in the
That's
hopper. We're
amazing.
doing a slight rebrand on the podcast coming up, and there's going to be lots of Dion torture. We went to Lexington, Kentucky, and there were horse statues on every corner. Their garbage cans
Yeah.
had horses
amazing.
on them.
Yeah.
It
yeah.
was beautiful, and the city was nice too. So
Yeah, it's way better than California.
I
Is
agree
that-
100%.
Okay, so like bars down here.
Well, okay, you know what? Cork it. Okay, I'm just saying, Kentucky is beautiful, and we keep our places mostly clean for the most part, right?
Do you? Oh, well, I guess yeah.
I mean, there's a
Sure.
few bad places, like but we're we could be Cleveland.
Oh,
That's true. Cleveland's garbage. I'm
Wow.
embarrassed to be in the same
Yeah.
state.
That's okay. Yeah. You know what? I got nothing else. That's fair.
Yeah, Kentucky's beautiful for the most part. Oh. What the heck was that thing? It looked like the radioactive child of Beetlejuice and a stallion. I don't understand.
I think
What
she
was
just
it?
named what it actually is.
Oh gosh.
I think canonically now on the show, that's what that is.
Write it down, Andrew. It's official.
All right, I'm
Enter
writing it
into
down.
the canon. It's the lore now. I love being
That's
part
part
of
of
the deep
that's
lore.
part of the lore.
Do not
Shrubbles
cite
away.
the deep lore to me, witch.
Well, I'm sorry. You're going to have to endure a lot of lore tonight, Mary, because the audience is loving this. I'll take a Joe Rogan high as F and a new Buffalo Jeff button. All I'm going to do is I'm going to press you the
Ooh.
Joe Rogan, then I'm going to refresh my browser, and hopefully the new buttons will load.
Imagine if you gave a white supremacist 5 MEO DMT, and then as the first one, as they're exhaling,
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel unclean.
Oh, Mary, you haven't begun to feel unclean.
Leave
Wow,
me
there it is.
alone.
oh boy.
No.
There it is.
The power of Christ compels you.
It's gonna need to compel him a lot harder than that.
Well, it's capable of that at least. So, I'm gonna go get my Bible.
Got to start somewhere.
I'm
There
gonna
we
get
go.
my Bible. Start sprinkling holy water on Jeff.
I don't know if that's gonna work, Mary.
He's not a vampire.
No. Now he's not a vampire either, but it wouldn't hurt to get prepared.
Who's that Pokemon? It's
Me, your old pal Buffalo Jeff.
Why do you hate me?
I mean, that
What
button
did
was
I
created
do?
months ago.
That's a very interesting question.
See, Mary, you're not the only one. Check this out. Even I have.
Who's that Pokemon? It's
You have one for all the guys or just you?
Who's that Pokemon? It's
Who did you get to record that?
Kyrie saying the W. It's AI.
Oh. Could have just hollered at me. I would have happily screamed into a mic for you for 30 seconds.
Jeff,
Could you have done this? What?
I was going to say what you need to do is you need to redo yours, but you need to use Jeff, the land shark from Marvel. You need to use
What?
his voice.
I don't know what that voice is.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's adorable as hell. It's hilarious.
I gave up.
Wait,
on Marvel,
hold
man.
on.
You know
Can
this.
we just put that into the Lord? Andrew just called Jeff adorable. That
The
just
shark.
happened.
No,
That
I
was
called
precious.
the land shark adorable, which honestly the fact that I called a land shark adorable should be fairly significant enough.
I don't care. It's my headcanon now.
Your headcanon's weird.
I mean, Buffalo Jeff might come out to visit earlier than planned, Mary. If you keep making those kind of mistakes on the show, just
Leave me alone.
just saying. Now, folks, some of these popped up in a weird order when I refreshed the browser, so I'm going to read them all right now, but if yours isn't first, yours is coming, don't worry. But thank you in advance. TLJ Screwjob says, in regards to the Superman marketing, I don't give a shit if Gunn only shows the first 30 minutes in trailers. I need to know that this movie isn't just a repeat of Simple Zack, even if FF is F'd. I need more superheroes! While I am very open on my opinion on Marvel movies for the most part, I want FF not to suck, but after the whole Vanessa Kirby thing, which we'll talk about, I'm a little concerned. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, Script, because you and I will talk about this on social media a little bit. It feels like the only people that have a lot of problem with this movie are just because it's not Zack Snyder and Henry Cavill. And they're like, I'm not saying this looks like the greatest thing ever, but this doesn't look bad. It's like you don't know what it is until you watch it. And if
It's
sucks, I'll be the
automatically
first one
getting
to
a
admit
watch
it.
from me because of crypto.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if nothing else, I'm tuning in for.
I'm gonna watch it for Goodest Boy, and because
Goodest
I
Boy,
do
yeah.
genuinely want to believe that we can get a good Superman film.
I will say
Weird.
this James Gunn is giving us a Superman that is very familiar to a lot of Superman readers, but something we've never seen in live action before. And
That's
that-
true.
That is something that is really hard to pull off. So I think it's pretty I mean, yeah, most of the hate that you're seeing is coming from very much Snyder fans. Even like, yeah, because you did that post about how like 20 minutes are cut, and the fact of the matter is it came from a Snyder fan, and on top of that, it wasn't as a result of negative test screening. It was basically to save it time. Because one of the things that Warner Brothers is cracking down on is they don't want 3-hour movies in theaters because that reduces the amount of showings you can have in a theater. If it's all about making money, it's like, well, the more showings you can get per day, the better odds you are going to cross that 100 million, 200 million, and so forth box office domestically. So yeah, I mean, we heard a few months ago that there is a scene in Superman that's between Lois and Clark that is like a 10-minute dialogue thing. If it's engaging, if it's a very engaging conversation, nobody's going to care. But the only kind of mixed reviews I've gotten from people that love the test screening that they saw that I heard, and a couple that were mixed reviews, was they were all in agreement that such a scene was way too long. So I wouldn't be surprised if they cut that down or trim it down in some way. The rumors of the reshoots are grossly exaggerated because they did do a day and a half of pickups, but no one I know down in LA area has heard of any actual reshoots going on for Superman as of yet. But I'm keeping my
Well-
ears open because you never know.
And I wonder if it isn't true that I mean, like, I do agree that it's majority Snyderites out there who are generally speaking against anything that isn't Zack Snyder's very peculiar vision
not Daddy
for,
Snyder, they don't
for
want it.
DC. But aside from that, if there isn't something of a stigma attached to DC, because if we're honest with ourselves, DC is not great. It hasn't been great. I don't know that DC. I mean, you can't even make DC great again because it's never really been great in terms of the live action stuff, except for the occasional, Batman movie. Other than that, there's not a lot to pull from, and so there is an air, I think, of sort of general like unsure, what do you
doubt.
expect from us as a
Yeah.
public to like, it's hard to put any hope or faith in DC at this point because there's very little that's been done to earn it.
Well, we
So
can't.
aside from the Snyderites,
Yeah, well, we can't point back to a specific era of like extended success and overall audience reception being, largely positive, like we can with the MCU, right? We can point to the first 3 phases of the MCU, and yeah, 1 or 2 here or there might be hit or miss, but overall, like those first 3 phases, people
Sure.
could point to that and be like, "That was solid." Can they get back to that? With DC, it's one-offs, right? It's
Mhm.
Can we get back to Batman 89 or the first Christopher Reeve Superman or like Batman Begins, and it's just 1 or 2 things here and there, very sporadically and spread out, as opposed to an actual era. The MCU, despite where they're at now, which is not a good place, they did have an era, and it took place over a very long period of time, movie-wise, that can be pointed at as like, okay, this was high success territory.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I mean
Yeah.
they're going on 20 years. I mean, one of the things we have that we haven't had before is that Warner Brothers has had a massive regime change. David Zaslav cleaned house over there, which is why so many people in Hollywood hate him. That and the fact that he's a traditional conservative. Like he's the conservative of like the Nixon era type of stuff. Which means that he's not against certain left-leaning ideas, but he's cautiously for it, and he's also like he takes no crap. So if you fail hard and mean, you're out. That's basically it. I mean, there were rumors going on about Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi probably being exited out of Warner Brothers because a lot of the choices they had made since they took over regular film production, not DC film, but regular film production, have been lackluster. Especially like there's been a couple of really significant bombs. Joker Folie à Deux, especially one of them, even though it's a movie that I actually find a little bit more depth in than most people, which is quite all right. You can hate it all you want. I look at it as a parallel to that Luigi Magnion guy, very much in how society's been treating him. And that movie came out before that guy did that thing. So it's kind of an interesting life imitating art moment. But recently, because of the success for a Minecraft movie, it looks like they've held on to their job for at least another quarter. And now it's all up to James Gunn, where I will say this, the naysayers at Warner Brothers are not disappointed with the test screenings. The people that are pro Warner Brothers are pretty happy so far with the test screenings of Superman. I think the marketing is incredibly peculiar, but then again, I learned how bad marketing and marketing departments were when I started to work at Warner Brothers back in the early 2000s for a short time. I think that's a little bit of a holdover of like what Alan Horn was doing when he was over there. I think he's still there now as a consultant, but he left to go to Disney and then fired James Gunn, which then got James Gunn in with Warner Brothers and led to basically whatever this generation is going to be. I don't know how it's going to land, but there's set photos that have released recently of Jason Momoa as Lobo, or Lobo who always was Lobo.
Gosh,
And he
that'd be
just played
so-
Jason
Okay.
Momoa for a couple of
That's
years.
perfect.
I want to
casting.
go.
That's perfect
I
casting.
want to go on record here and say that I've been saying he should have been
He has.
cast as Lobo for
Something
like
like-
the last 6 years.
I was literally about to say for at least 5 years, I've heard Andrew say nothing but we need Jason Momoa as Lobo. Why?
He's
on
literally
earth?
the perfect Lobo, and they
perfect
wasted him on
Was the
Arthur.
Aquaman, yeah.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And
They
I
wasted
would
him
be
on
here for it.
Aquabro.
But the thing is you're going to have to do some work, okay? Like DC has borne itself out to have a pretty crummy track record where movies are concerned, and so people aren't going to bend over backwards for it at this point. I think like you'll have people go, and the only thing that's going to get butts in seats is word of mouth at this point, because nobody trusts any of the marketing. You have absolutely spent all of your currency with us, and so you're going to have to actually pull something out that's valid and entertaining, and you're not going to you can't just expect people to show up because it's DC at this point. You've spent that currency. It's gone. You have to actually do a good job.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're always going to get the people that are basically trained to go to anything that they like. So you have the hardcore Star Wars fans that even if it's Disney, they'll still watch it. Same thing with all the other major IPs. You're always going to get that core audience. If you can hit them hard for a win, they are going to stimulate the word of mouth aspect. What's interesting here is that James Gunn, I think he has this entire studio on his shoulders. He fails, it's done. Now, superhero movies are never going to go away because they've never gone away. Now, since Superman in '78 came about, they have existed.
They've just gone from, but they've stuck around.
They've just gone from big blockbuster tentpoles to smaller films. Like you want to talk about the late 80s, Marvel did The Punisher and Captain America. Those were virtually like straight to VHS movies.
Rightly so.
And rightly so. That is your worst case scenario, but they're never going to go away. I mean, it's just not going to happen. Even if Marvel this year has every one of their movies a flop, they're still going to be making Marvel movies. Why? Because the IP could still generate some money. All they have to do is just readjust like the investment level that they're going into and see if they can rebuild themselves up to a tentpole status. Warner Brothers is relying on Superman because he is one of the most iconic fictional characters in human history.
He's the superhero.
Pretty much. They're banking that they're going to get the normies and they're going to get the super core fans. It's the pocket of the rest of the audience, which I would say about 40% general, that they want to get in because they know they're going to get the one viewing from everybody else. And their goal is we need them to come back, if not every weekend, twice every weekend. Because that's
you're going to get normies for a week or two.
Definitely. And that, I mean, right now, even a Minecraft movie, it dropped at 50%. Next week is probably going to drop another 50%, but that's still going to be a lot of money rolling in for them, which is great. With Superman here, their marketing is really bad, but they're leaning in on James Gunn a bit more than the rest of the cast. And the reason being is that James Gunn did what's called a miracle in Hollywood. They took an existing IP that nobody knew and he made it a household name in one go, which would be Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, most comic book fans didn't even know who Guardians of the Galaxy were at the time.
I knew what they were passively, but I couldn't have told you a name on the original team, let alone like I knew about the Rocket Raccoon because how can you not know about Rocket Raccoon as a talking raccoon?
Kind of an iconic character for sure.
Easy to
He made that entire crew. Granted, it wasn't the original Guardians from the comics, but he made that entire like permutation of the Guardians team. He made them a household name, to your point, in one shot. So he does have some credibility under his belt there. I think that with the normies, to Mary's point, and to you as well, Script, I think that if the movie is genuinely good and genuinely fun, word of mouth will spread from the normies.
Right.
And then we'll see a film that has like one of those very healthy drop-offs week over week, like what you would expect from like a high-performing MCU film. But that's all going to be dependent upon how much fun the normies actually have there. Because we who have been reading comic books since forever, when we were fetuses, could praise a movie, until we're purple in the face, right? But the fact of the matter is, if it's not entertaining on a more broad scale, the normies are going to tune out.
Well, they've got Robert Meyer Burnett all up on it. He's done nothing but praise this movie.
He has been praising it.
He's got a pretty big footprint in this sphere. So I mean, and I tend to trust the guy.
One thing you should pay attention though to, and this isn't a dig at anybody, is look at the age of the people that are going to praise this movie, and look at the comments Script made about how this is a version of Superman we've never seen on film. You got to remember, a majority of the people online are younger than, let's say, me, who's 36. So you either know Superman from a cartoon or you know him from a video game or something else. I wonder if the lack of knowledge is going... Well, no, I wonder if the lack of knowledge is going to hurt a possibly good movie because people just don't know that that's the version. That'd be like saying, "Oh, I didn't know Spider-Man had webs under his arms." It's like, well,
Right.
for like 10 years he did straight. So,
And actually, to
generation of
that
people know
point,
that.
and this actually might be one of the more concerning things for me, is that unless you're specifically of like our generation, obviously we all had the the animated series, the Paul Dini, Bruce Timm, and all that. So
Great
we
show.
had Superman the animated series, which is a wonderful show,
It really is.
right? And Superman is picturesque in that. Same within the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited animation shows. However, outside of that, since then, we've had what? Not really any cartoons. You had Superman Returns, which
Yeah.
didn't do great.
Did not do great.
Then you had Man of Steel, and after that, ironically enough, then you had the Injustice video games, which focused on evil Superman,
Right.
and then you had, which Snyder was doing that basically anyway. And then you had the rest of the Snyder films, right? So the general population of moviegoers that are younger than us, at least, who don't have prior context to the character, most of their exposure to the character, unless they've been reading comic books, has been like a really bad version of Superman. So, and maybe that's set an expectation for them of what they think Superman's supposed to be. They think he's basically supposed to be Homelander. Or what's his name? Is it Omni-Man from Invincible?
Yeah,
Is that it?
Omni-Man or Homelander. Yeah.
I wonder if it wouldn't be beneficial to kind of maybe like try to push to a certain extent, at least, maybe that sort of animated series, like let people know, like, hey guys, if you want some insight into a reasonable expectation of who Superman as a human being really is and how you can expect him to behave, this is a good baseline, and it's accessible, and it's something you can do in bite sizes. So even people, you know what I mean? Like there's often a return to the source material. I know that whenever new Harry Potter stuff would come out, whenever we got the Fantastic Beasts franchise, whenever they would open something up at Universal, my first inclination would always be to return to the books. I would go back and I would start rereading through everything because it would put me back in that mindset. Even Minecraft movie came out and I was like, oh my gosh, I got to play Minecraft again with my friend. I got to maybe get back in this. And so it sort of stimulates that interest. I wonder if it wouldn't be beneficial for just as a general geekdom community to be like, hey guys, if you're like looking for something to tap into this vein, if you're interested in it, this is a good direction to head into. And I think the series is extremely accessible. They're bite-sized chunks. You can watch it in like 22 minutes to get a couple of episodes. And granted, there's like a lot of several episodes, like parts 1, 2, and 3 in Justice League. And
Mary, what
Superman
you do
and
is you just show them the Superman Batman World's Finest episode, and then they're hooked on the show because it's just
It's a perfect episode. Yeah.
that's
right.
if you're younger and you don't realize this, that was like the
Yeah.
90s equivalent of the Avengers. And when they would show
Really?
that on TV,
Mhm.
there would be I had it on tape. But when they would shit on TV, they would run commercials like the epic conclusion. They would run all 3
Yeah.
parts in a row. They'd treat it like a movie, and it'd be an all-afternoon event. And that was awesome. And it's still good. It still holds up. I've watched it, let's say, in the last 6 months. And I was like, yep, for what this is supposed to be, this is a very good representation of these characters.
I
always
love
liked
Great
them.
people.
I love that you brought that up, Mary, because something, not to tie this to Ripaverse stuff, but Eric always points this out, that these studios that hold the Western comic book superhero IPs do such a horrible job of is cross promoting their stuff to get more widespread like interest, and also just more content for people to absorb, right? Like, why? And Script, maybe this is a question you can answer since you're more of an industry insider than certainly any of us here on the panel are otherwise, is like, why wouldn't James Gunn or Warner say, hey, if you're hyped about Superman, or you want to see more about Superman that you can expect in this movie, we've got right now on HBO Max, we've got Superman the animated series, we've got Justice League the animated series. Go check those out, right? In our
Prime
library,
your
in our
audience.
catalog. That's already something that they own, right?
Well, maybe they will when they get closer to the movie, because we're still 3 months out.
We are,
Yeah.
but the issue is you don't ever see that. You really don't. Like, I remember this was a criticism that I had back when, there are a lot of criticisms to have of DC when they did the New 52 reset. But one of the ones that I had was their initial thinking was like, hey, we want to make this we want to make our brand more accessible to newcomers as opposed to just the people who have been reading this for decades. Okay, I can kind of see that line of thinking. The problem was they threw out all the stuff that the people that have been reading for decades loved. But the
Yeah.
idea was to make it more accessible at an entry level for somebody coming in for the first time, and then cross-promoting that with what was happening at that time, because this was like 2011 was when they launched New 52. What was happening? They were starting to relaunch kind of the DC movies, right? There was none of that real cross promotion happening. Like that could have actually done a lot to help, because superhero films, both DC and Marvel, were just like really booming at that point, right? Because this was after Iron Man 1. So the MCU was really kicking off. That cross promoting can do nothing but help you. Like you're promoting your own stuff. Like you already own this. You're not telling,
Mhm.
you're not Walmart telling customers to go shop at Target. You know, you're not Macy's telling people to go shop at, you know, wherever, right? Nordstrom, I don't know.
Well,
Like,
only for the Marvel or only for the DC stuff, because Marvel, it's stupid, but it's like, why are we going to promote X-Men when we don't make, you know, blah 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 from X-Men?
right? Because
Well,
that's
DC
because
has nothing to lose, though.
all the licensing, yeah, with Marvel, like all the licensing was split up everywhere, right? You had Fox, you had Universal, and all that. Yeah, I definitely understand.
DC has nothing to lose. All you do is increase your traffic and your footprint at that point, and you potentially increase the engagement from the audience. Like, there's a lot of kids these days that don't understand. If you're looking for comics that are accessible for children, DC is the route to take. It's the one with all of the wholesome values and messaging, right? And so if you're wanting to make fans for life, that's really the demographic that you need to be shooting for. Push these cartoons, right? Like get that out there and show these like goodness gracious, I miss the like virtues and morals that we used to stick out there for kids in like mainstream content that was actually good. And with this sort of culture war going, I'm not trying to drag this back to a culture war, I swear, but I'm just saying, like, you want a customer for life? Find the kids and sell them something that has value and something that parents don't have to be opposed to. This is the big problem that Disney keeps having, is they keep shoving this messaging that is in opposition to anybody with a brain in their heads who's a parent who's trying to raise a kid. Like, why don't you just cross all of your T's and dot all of your I's and make this accessible in a way that is good for everyone? You will increase your box office. You will have fans for life. You will make it accessible to new people who want to enter into the franchise, who aren't familiar with it. You might be able to start off on a new foot by using something that is already established, already in place, already there. Like, promote the stuff that you already have. This is a win-win situation. I'm sorry, I'm just spitballing here, but I think it's a good idea. Like, DC has so much to work with and so much value to offer. If they would just remove their heads from their sphincters and move themselves in a direction that makes anything in terms of sense in promotion. Just saying.
Well, one of the reasons they don't usually go that route of like existing content at the forefront to set up the big new feature film or the big new interpretation of the IP is that they don't want to create that fan discourse of what is it of lowered expectations or higher expectations at this point. Right now,
It's sad.
they're basically saying, okay, we have this new Superman take. It's pulling off of this era of the character. And what we want to do is we want to win them over with the new version of the character. And then we want them to need more exposure of this character that they will go to our archives. This is actually something they did that was quite similar to when Superman Returns came out. About 5 years prior to that, they officially released like the box set of the Superman DVDs because they didn't know that they were going to be able to do Superman Returns yet at the time. The box set did pretty well. But when Superman Returns came out in theaters, they relaunched the box set again. And then on top of that, they also teased the master set. So here you got all 4 Superman movies plus Superman Returns as a master. And people bought it up. Now, yes, the Superman Returns was a relative flop and a divisive critically at Warner Brothers. And if it didn't have such a huge investment of like 15 years up its back in order to get made, we would have had a sequel right away. Because even again at 2006, a $660 million worldwide gross was pretty good, especially considering the budget was still sub 200 million at that time. But you also have to factor in Warner Brothers had been working on this film since 1991.
I'm gonna push back on you a little bit though, script. And
Sure, you can.
to be
I mean,
clear,
I'm just telling you how it is. You can make your
no,
argument.
no. I'm not suggesting that you're incorrect in terms of the motivation that they have behind the angle that they're taking, but it doesn't jive with me in terms of they don't want to create that contrast for comparison on the old content. But then they're gonna, and I'm not trying to actually like legitimately pivot here. I'm just saying it's pertinent for what we're discussing. They'll go and they'll turn Snape black when that is in crazy direct opposition. You know what I mean? Like, you have this contrast. Of course it's going to stir discussion, but like if they're willing to do something like turn Snape black when that's going to stir up conversation about the contrast between the old content and the new content, because it can do nothing else, right? Then why take that angle on one IP but not on the other? Like, at least if you were to do it in terms of something like the DC animated series, as opposed to like just juxtaposed against the live action movies, the conversation would be honest. You could talk about the difference in messaging or contrasts of the character from this generation or the next, right? And you could do honest comparison, reasonable comparison, geek comparison, the types of comparisons that we all actually enjoy engaging in, as opposed to some superficial blackwashing of a character that's going to happen anyway. Like, why is it okay on one IP and in this angle, but not on another? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it feels so bizarre to me.
What if it's the reason that every time a comic book sale happens, some of these people have to pay a royalty? Maybe they don't want to pay royalties. Maybe they could just sell the character and be like, well, we can circumvent paying all these people. Because if you sit there and promote books, you're gonna, like, for example, I only know this from the Marvel standpoint, but like, these guys will get a check every time a movie comes out. Or I know people that'll get a check for a lot of money when they put certain things in certain movies. Do you think a lot of that stuff, like, oh, we're gonna promote these books, and then they have to just keep paying these people? Like, do you think that could be a reason, script?
It is for Disney, but not for Warner Brothers. And this actually goes back to Neil Adams. So before Superman the movie came out, Neil Adams actually lobbied to make sure that Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel's name was back as creators of Superman on the comic books and any sort of derivative variation of it. And he made a really great argument, not just to the editorial staff at Detective Comics, but also when Warner Brothers purchased the rights with, or threw in their chips with the Salkinds to make Superman the movie. And because Neil Adams is such, he was a bigger guy in advertising than he was in comics, which is actually why he got such a rep. But he's a notable, like, all comic book fans love his art. And
I was going to say, he's got one of the most iconic versions of Batman under his pencil. So
that was cool.
And so in part, he lobbied a lot of other comic book creators. He even got producers, everybody, to basically say, listen, you have to credit the people that created these works and the people that participated in expanding the characters and the universes of every single one of these characters. And Warner Brothers agreed, because they looked back and they said, yeah, you know what? Schuster and Siegel, they sold Superman for like $20,000 in the early 1940s. Their names were removed from the titles. They never got any credit. It was rare that anyone who was reading Superman at the time knew who actually created them. Warner Brothers acknowledged, okay, that's not right. So at the time in the 70s, they decided to give basically a yearly payout to the Siegel and Schuster family. Now, by our standards today, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it was more than nothing. It was more than any other studio or any other IP holder would ever have done anyways. And what's interesting is that as the decades proceeded, Warner Brothers merged with Detective Comics. They own Detective Comics. They bought outright all the characters, with a few exceptions. I think Michael Uslan has the film rights to Batman, but those revert to either his next of kin when he passes away, or Warner Brothers can do a proper buyout when he passes away. And then John Peters somehow got the Superman rights after the Salkinds, and that was split between Warner Brothers, and that was a whole mess. But once all that got settled out, Warner Brothers pretty much said, we have to treat the IPs that we buy the same way we treat the filmmakers that make the movies. And the filmmakers, Warner Brothers had this reputation of basically being pro-artistic filmmaker, pro-auteur, and giving them good deals. Now, granted, Warner Brothers has made a bunch of bombs over the last 25 years, but whenever they sell, if you were working on that, you get a pretty decent chunk of cash, unless you're in the set decoration department like I was with the Suicide Squad, where I don't get anything. But aside from that, Warner Brothers actually does a lot of payouts. And in fact, I know a couple of comic creators. When I was talking with Jim Lee many years ago, and I was pitching a story there, he shared about how some of the stuff that he did, especially with like one of being the artist, one of the first artists that actually drew Hush. He gets rights. He gets some nice checks anytime Hush is used in animation or live action or video games or what have you, and more than what he got paid to actually do the book, which is a pretty sweet deal for a comic book artist and creator. Oddly enough, also when Jeff Johns got in charge of the DC films, that was actually one of the darker times for for DC films as well. You had Green Lantern by Greg Berlanti, CW fame, whose script was so terrible and who had, unfortunately, the backing by the studio where Martin Campbell, the guy who revived Bond twice, was unable to get his script, the script in the shape that he wanted it to. And therefore Green Lantern, which had some great potential, became
Became what it was.
And it just kind of unraveled from there. You had Kevin Tsujihara, who is doing his best to try and get Warner Brothers in order, especially with the comic book IP, because he was of the same mind, which is we have these comic book intellectual properties. The only one that's ever really made us any money has been Batman. We need to try and find a way to do that with the other superheroes. Part of them pitched, darker, edgier takes. And sadly, there's a number of comic book creators at DC at the time that were very much into that because that part kind of sold as well, which was always weird. And I mean, I started no longer reading the mainstream stuff after 2006, and I started going into back issues just because I wanted to get more interesting.
Oh,
stories.
2006. Shoot. Well, that's around like Infinite Crisis and Identity Crisis. So yeah. that's actually the darkest that DC has gotten. Like that was, man, Dan did not to go on a comic book tangent.
But yeah, Dan DiDio really.
Dan DiDio, like all of a sudden, like wanted to push like this like emotional.
He went bipolar.
Just turmoil, just trauma everywhere. You had Diana killing freaking Max, right? And you're like, what is
Maxwell
happening?
Lord. Yeah, you had Blue Beetle get murdered, and then the new Blue Beetle came into being.
Yeah, it was a whole thing.
It was definitely an excessive whole thing. And it also strayed away from what so DC's brand was pulp style adventure stories. So, and this was being like detective, adventure, romance, mystery, traditional mystery stuff, like sci-fi mystery and fantasy. And then Marvel was soap opera stuff, like real human problems, the world outside your window, very much integrated into what as close to possible to current day things. And DC was like, no. We'll have the same names of a lot of the same countries, but we're going to make up our own countries so that we don't actually target any type of current enemy in the real world. We'll have our own type of politics. We'll have our own fake presidents and very similar to Earth history, but it's going to skew off into this different direction. And comic book readers pick that up right away. But one of the things that is really like fascinating right now is we have all this backlog of IP. Yes, there's conflicts when certain characters are being race swapped as such. In fact, for the Superman movie, the actor who's playing Perry White is a black man, but he's also a really, really good actor. And we've already had a black Perry White with Zack Snyder's Justice League with Lawrence Fishburne, and he was wasted egregiously. But traditionally, Perry White has always been a white guy. And
it's in the name.
It's in the name. But for some reason, even when Jeffrey Wright was playing Gordon, if you isolate his performance and what he's doing in that movie of the Batman, he is still very much a Jim Gordon character. You could identify his actions and behaviors with, that copy, that character.
Well, this could actually segue pretty.
Slater.
This could segue fairly well into the main topic of the evening.
Well, we don't need to segue. We need to read the rest of the super chats because we told the audience. So.
Yes, we don't need to ignore them.
Yeah. We're going to keep moving forward. John Thomas says, Hail Mary, hail Andrew, hail Script Doctor. As always, hail Jeff. Thank you. Bullshitter of the bullshitters. Script, what is the hardest part of adapting a good novel to a screenplay? How do you use internal monologue without exposition?
Oh, well, that's the real trick. It depends on the genre of the story. Like if you're going to be doing a detective novel, you can get away with an internal monologue as a voiceover because that's part of the genre itself. If you're doing sci-fi fantasy, you could do personal logs to get done to get that out there. The other part too, and this one is a little bit more controversial, but it can be done well, is you create a character that is the fish out of water, who is the proxy,
Mhm.
and they need to discover the world around them. So that way you can have characters kind of teach them of this world along the way that they can be integrated into. Because there's nothing worse than having a scene where you have a group of people who live in the world, and then they're talking about the stuff that all these characters should already know because it's bold face giving exposition to the audience. And they usually start with phrases like, as you know, this thing is going to happen. You don't need to do that. The whole idea that you can cheat exposition is by introducing a character that has no clue what's going on and having their experience be the pathway to opening up the world. Like Luke Skywalker figuring out the Force and the Jedi, he's us as an audience a proxy for that. Like if Luke Skywalker were already a Jedi, knew everything about the Force, and he went to go see Obi-Wan, he's like, yeah, your dad was a Jedi Knight like me. Oh, really? But you already knew that. Like why would Obi-Wan even have to reiterate that to him? It doesn't make sense character. That's why Luke has no clue about who his father was and was given a false story. And so Obi-Wan is giving exposition by saying, yeah, your uncle lied to you. And this is what your father really was. And that not only does it give us exposition, but it also gives us information about who Owen Lars was, how he was raising Luke, and also Luke's world, as he recognized it, gets kind of shattered as a result when he realizes that his father was part of a group of knights that were tasked with, defending peace and justice in the galaxy. And that's a huge revelation. And to find out that he's just now a lonely farmer with dreams of leaving this planet to go out onto adventures, and that his father, who wasn't just a simple spice miner or a navigator on a spice raider, was actually doing the very thing that he would constantly fantasize about. That's huge. It shows that there's a connection to him. He's like, oh, that's why I behave this way. That's why my uncle keeps telling me that my dad was doing this, but deep down I wanted to do this other thing. It's because it's in my blood to go out and get as far away from this planet as possible and do something useful with my life besides moisture farming. And that's what it is. On the novel side of things, pay close attention to how the author writes the inner monologue. Is it entirely necessary? Sometimes you have chapters of an inner monologue where there's just a weird random thought going on with the character's head and has nothing to do with the main story at all. So in that case, you can cut it. But yeah, it's all the tricks that you can think of. I always like to say, if it's not a detective story or a noir story, try to avoid a voiceover or an internal monologue, and stretch your imagination to try and get that information across in a different way that still fits with the tone of the story that you're trying to adapt.
Well, there you go, John Thomas. Remember, folks, you can find an actual script doctor here on WCBS. Thanks, script.
No problem. Thank you.
So Georgian says in the we already read that. TLJ Screwjob says WB is effing us. They're effing us with Superman marketing. They're effing us with the Harry Potter show, and they're effing us with the drive-through. Well, that's
Lethal
why you
Weapon
never
2.
order
At the drive-thru.
Okay?
Yeah,
Leo Getz.
Lethal Weapon 2, getting Subway takeout.
Oh,
Hey, fuck you with the drive-through, okay?
All right.
You got to add that to your list of movies, Andrew. You're
I-
36 and you've never seen Lethal Weapon.
No, I've seen the first one, but I was 11.
Well,
It's
you're
been
36. You
now?
should watch them all.
If you watch it
been a
now,
minute.
you will see what a plutonic bromance actually is.
I've seen that in plenty of things.
But
Yeah, but
this
this
is
is a
the one
good
that
movie.
really defined it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Plus, there's a great family dynamic.
Mhm.
Everything about Lethal Weapon kicks ass. Richard Donner's a great director.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
you really can't miss out on it.
it's the only feature film franchise to bring back every single actor for every single sequel, if that actor was even still alive too.
Mm.
Like even ones that are only in there for like one scene with one line, they're still brought back.
Yeah, and it's the only franchise that I can think, well, one of two that I can think of every film is good. There's not one bad Lethal Weapon movie. I would argue that with anybody. Even 4 is not a bad movie at all.
3 was the nightmare one to make because they were shooting it before they even had a completed script, and they still managed to pull it off to be an entertaining film.
I like 3 quite a bit, to be honest.
I still struggle to try and articulate the plot coherently for that movie because it is about gun running, but there's all these other things with like a model home complex off a bridge in LA. It's weird.
Yeah, Jack Travis is not the world's best villain.
No, but that actor played a great villain in The Legend of Zorro as Don Raphael.
Oh, that's him?
Yeah, that's him.
God, I love that movie. You've seen that, right, Andrew?
Yes,
Yeah.
I have seen that.
Mary?
I don't. What is it exactly?
The Mask of
Never-
Zorro.
Oh, the Mask of. Wait, no. Wait, is it? Oh, wait, is it the Mask of Zorro? That's the one with Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
I think
Antonio
you know what?
Banderas.
I have a very, very
Anthony
specific
Hopkins.
memory of my mother making commentary when I was young about how every man should wear a cape and a mask or something like that.
wow, Mama Mayhem was based.
I don't think it landed for me when I was a kid the way that it does
Okay.
now. But I think I have some vague memory of that. Yeah, and, Antonio Banderas, he's great. He's a ton of fun.
Yeah, Anthony Hopkins was in it too, wasn't he?
Mhm.
Yep, that movie was
It
fantastic.
was essentially Batman Beyond before Batman Beyond.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I need to watch that again soon. Thank you, TLJ Screwjob, for the Lethal Weapon reference. Shrubbles await, we pressed your button. Trace XL, thank you very much for joining us tonight. He says, you realize that, having mentioned the city, you now have to play the Cleveland tourism video, right?
Oh no.
Send me a link in the chat. I'll play it towards the end of the show. I don't think it's a copywritten thing.
Trace, if you want, you can DM it to me. I'll see it fast. If you want, DM it to me on Discord, and then I'll drop it inside.
Still better than Detroit.
Oof.
I think that's how the video ends, right?
Yep. If I remember correctly.
At least we're not Detroit. Yeah, having been to both cities many times. Ugh. So, Georgian, if the Blue Origin capsule didn't explode, Katy Perry's song "Firework" would take. If it did, it would take on a whole new meaning.
Shoot!
Oh my god! And the internet would be all over that too. You know they would.
Well, there's the line, something, show me what you're worth, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, it's worth however many millions of dollars you freaking paid to be on that stupid thing.
Do you think she actually paid to be on it, or this is like a marketing tactic from Jeff Bezos to it's just like she was invited on because she's famous.
It's possible that she just got the invite, but let's be real here. Like, rocket fuel is not your thing that you measure by the same barrel price as whatever the Saudis are selling us, right? Like,
Oh yeah, it's far more.
God
complex
only knows
design.
the inner workings of Hollywood took place in order to land each of those women on that shuttle. Legitimately, like there may very well have been like goat's blood and an altar involved. We have no clue. I'm just
Jeez.
saying. Just saying.
Well, I mean,
full on Hollywood Satanists.
This is like the second stunt they did because the first one they invited William Shatner, and as far as I know, he didn't pay to go up.
Well, okay, so William Shatner.
William
If
Shatner
there's
is a
someone who
Canadian.
deserves a free ride, well, it's definitely not because he's Canadian. That should work against him. Sorry, script. But if anything, William Shatner deserves a free ride into space because he's Captain freaking Kirk.
Yeah,
Does
he's
Han
also.
Oh
Solo-
my
does Harrison
gosh,
Ford
yeah.
earn one?
What was that?
Does Harrison Ford earn one? Because Han
Yeah.
Solo.
Harrison Ford earns one,
Get
but
off my plane.
he'd probably bitch about the experience afterwards and wish that it had blown up.
Maybe, or he'd probably be jealous that he's not the one piloting it because he does like to fly.
Right?
Maybe that's why he hasn't been invited, because he has the caveat. It's like, sorry, Jeff, I'm only going to come up if I can fly.
Maybe, yeah.
Harrison, we saw what happened last time you were on the Millennium Falcon. We can't have you breaking your leg in outer space, buddy. So, Georgian, you requested the Jeffu button, so sure, we'll press that for
Jeffu?
you right now.
Who's that Pokemon? It's
It's a Jaffu. Hi.
There we go. I should have hired. You know what? I will hire you to
Wow.
do some voices for us.
Wow. No, you should. Everybody who has watched Mary's channel for any length of time knows that she can do voices exceedingly well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I
Alright.
tell you everything. You're looking like a man.
There it is.
Oh, perfect.
There it
We
is.
need,
I was just
we
waiting
need more
for
Miss Swan.
Wow.
She was, I miss Miss Swan.
I'm
That shit
so
was funny.
proud of you. I'm so proud of you that you got that. You get
I
a
mean,
gold star.
I don't know if you can say that about me. I'm the guy that's watched almost like so many things you can't even remember. But Mad TV, I watched every Saturday night. That was my show. It was better
My
than
parents
SNL.
would not let me watch that.
Well, there's a good reason for that.
Yeah, it was good though. Enrique says, "Hello, Mary. Let's watch Harry Potter in my oh."
Hello, Mary. Let's watch Harry Potter
Not
in my
today,
basement.
Satan.
Whoa.
No.
I'm worse than Satan.
Okay. Look.
I went on another show, Mary, not that long
And
ago.
the
The
prisoner
side
of
scroll
Buffalo
wasn't that
Jeff.
So, Georgian, thank you very much. I can't believe I outlived 4chan, the cesspool of the internet, taken down by hackers and suffering an inglorious death. Godspeed, my fellow Anons. Wait,
Wait, is
4chan died?
4chan down now?
4chan's finally down. What about 8chan? Is that still
I
up?
have never spent any length of time, not even 30 seconds of my life, on that website. I just know
And now
of
you
it
can't.
because it's the internet. But that was kind of one of those websites I kind of expected to always be around.
Oh, dude, when I worked in a couple of writers' rooms and we ever needed to find the most craziest of jerks, we would always go to 4chan and just start perusing to get
Right.
inspiration.
Get
for how to
an
create a-
idea of like, okay, what's this character's voice sound like? Sounds like this person. All right.
Well, I mean, sometimes you'll be out and about and you'll interact with some crazy person. Then all you have to do is just describe them in a search function, and then it will take you to a 4chan post that you'll just see tons of other people espousing the same rhetoric.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
you've got this Bible of content to mine, and then just create a really crazy, stupid character that either embarrasses those types of people or embarrasses the ideas that they, promote.
I've
There's
never
like the
been
way
on
you said that.
4chan, so I have no idea.
Well, it's a staple of the internet, or was a staple of the internet.
Was.
Goodbye.
Was.
I can't be sad for a
long.
website like 4chan because I barely used it. My friend in college would be like, "Hey," and then he would just show me the dumbest shit on that site, and I'm like, "All right."
There's a
So
lot of dumb stuff there.
it's like rejected Reddit. That's all it really is. It's just like edgy, lull-filled Reddit.
Yeah. If you can't say it on Reddit, you go to 4chan.
Yeah. If you can't say it on 4chan, well, actually, you can say
Then you go to
anything you
8chan,
want on
actually.
4chan. Is that really a thing?
Yeah, there's an 8chan.
Oh, well.
That one had a lot more Asian fetish stuff, like anime. Asian
Goodness
manga fetish
gracious.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah. We would not go there that often unless we could not find anything about the crazy individual we'd had an encounter. And yes, it would then eventually lead to 8chan. You'd find a post that links that is pretty close to what you encountered. And then in the replies to the threads, it would just be tons of very gratuitous anime stills, gifs of things and tentacles. It's like, oh my God, just get it off the screen.
Say no more.
Yeah.
I walked down the streets of Japan frequently when I lived there. And that stuff was everywhere. I'm just going to let you know. It would literally be in shelves on street, like just lining the street. The shops were everywhere, and that stuff was everywhere. And it
Anime
was
or
legitimately
porn?
out there.
Yes.
Both.
Yes.
Yes.
Actually.
Yes.
You wouldn't
the hentai
believe the
was-
things they have in vending machines.
Oh my gosh, yes, exactly. The vending machines are everything you can think of, and yeah, and it's a genuinely, it's a sobering experience. Like you can't avoid it to a certain extent, or at least you do learn how. When you go in, you can't avoid it. When you spend some time there, you learn how to avoid it because you just look straight ahead. Don't look at
Don't
the
lie,
racks.
Mary. You enjoyed
if
it.
there's
It's art.
I absolutely did not. I am a good girl. So
Mhm.
but you just walk straight. If you see books in racks, don't look at them. Don't do it. It's not worth the risk. It's all
But if you
mixed in
see
together.
racks and books, you should buy them. So go to titsandart.com right now,
Oh my
folks. If you
Lord.
like
There
racks
it
and books.
is. Beautiful promotion. 10 out of 10. No notes.
Wow.
Wait till I start promoting Wokebusters on its own website after I finish shipping out the stuff. I've been getting good reviews and all kinds of good stuff, so I get to promote that left and right. Script liked it, so thank you, Script. I'm glad we talked about it earlier.
Yeah, it was
But,
a great read.
folks, I am shipping out the Indiegogo stuff right now. Check your emails. A lot of you that are in the chat right now should have received those because I know who you guys are. And taking care of everybody by the end of the week, and then I'm done. So I'm happy. But Shrubbles08 says, I'll take a Lex Luthor. No. Now, man, I don't like to correct the audience, but there is no Lex Luthor. No, it technically
It's wrong.
makes you
Wrong!
And one more time, just because.
Wrong!
And one of these.
Gibberish!
How about one of these?
Super abrasive.
Man,
Yeah.
Jeff's got freaking trigger finger on the buttons tonight, man. Like,
I can kill all this hype right
George
now.
Bush doesn't care about black people.
There we go. See, I did it.
Oh, boy.
And now I brought it back to the black people of Harry Potter.
what a segue!
Beautiful. Beautiful.
What a segue! All right, let's get into this.
Oh my
We got
God,
stuff
here
to
we go.
say.
So, folks,
Oh Lord.
here on the channel, here in this sphere, we love our entertainment. Adaptations, you name it, we're here for it. But one of the things a lot of audience members care about is accuracy. If you're adapting something we already like, there's no reason to change it because there's so much money in it the way it is that you should just do the same shit in terms of, I don't know, characters or the way they look or the world. Like, when somebody watches a Harry Potter movie, they want to watch an adaptation of the book. When I watch a Marvel movie, I want to watch an adaptation of the characters. And so when you move Harry Potter to television, it seemed like it was a smart money move to just get good actors that look the parts and move on and just tell more Harry Potter stories.
Well, and
But
Warner
now-
Brothers even pitched it as something that was going
Book
to be
accurate.
more faithful to J.K. Rowling's books than the
and
movies were.
that was literally what that was the whole point, right? Wasn't that the point? Was
Yeah,
that,
because
hey,
the
you
movies
got your
actually aren't
movies?
accurate adaptations for a large part.
No, they're
especially
really,
after
really
the second
not.
one.
They're really, really not. But if you wanted to get in, if you wanted to validate, let's say you wanted to validate the entire point of making a TV series, and their professed point of making this series was that it was going to be book accurate. And the point was you are drawing book fans with book accuracy. Otherwise, this is nothing more than so they made that point. They said, okay, so we're going to validate this endeavor by saying we're going with book accuracy. We recognize that we never once, through the course of 8 movies, explained who the heck the Marauders even were. And book fans are frustrated by a myriad of inaccuracies in these movies. And so in order to validate an entirely new series and draw in book fans, we're going to profess book accuracy. And we were like, yes. Thank you. I have been waiting for this for decades at this point. We were so excited. That was your validation of this endeavor. That was what you said. That is what you told us. That's why we got excited. That's why we showed up. That's why entirely new Harry Potter channels showed up. That's why we all went out and you like started buying more Harry Potter merch. I got excited. I've spent probably, I don't know, several $100s in the last few years since
I
this
think both of
announcement.
us have spent somewhere around there at least on new Harry Potter
On
merch in the
Harry
last
Potter
couple of
merch.
years.
Excited because I've got to have my swag ready, right? That was what we were excited for. So if that was what you were going to do and that was the pretense for this entire endeavor, you missed this was one glaring easy to everybody knew who they wanted to. We wanted Adam Driver. Everybody knew who they wanted in this role. Adam Driver was a swish 3-pointer for that's sports ball talk, right? Is that the right way to say that? Swish.
I don't play
Well,
hockey.
Physically,
Sorry.
he is. I don't find Adam Driver to be all that great of an actor. But yeah,
You don't
physically, he looks-
actually have to be super talkative. Like the great thing about Snape is he's pretty quiet. Most of it's just sneering.
You have to be able to pull off a sneering tone as you
Mhm.
speak.
Is that really
Twitch.
easy for Adam Driver to do when he sounds like he has a frog in his throat the entire time?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, if they dubbed his voiceover, I could buy it.
Well,
I was good with
he
him.
looks the part. Picture if you look at like original illustrations
Mm.
of the character, like I'm talking from like the late 80s or late 90s rather, and early
Well,
2000s.
he's ugly. He's
right?
really ugly.
Like he's not supposed to be an attractive character.
And Adam Driver's ugly.
Adam Driver's he's not Brad Pitt from the 90s. I'm sorry. Like far be it for me to just like jump right into, knocking somebody for how they look. It's not their fault they were born that way. But Adam Driver's not winning like sexiest man of the year awards anytime soon.
Oh, I
right?
don't know. They might. God
They
bless
got pretty
them.
close a few years
Okay,
ago.
well, it's 2025, so I guess anything could happen. Like, I'm sure a dude could win sexiest woman of the year award at this point.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, there was a Miss what is it, Miss Universe was a dude.
Yes. Yeah, let's
Don't
not
tell
go
me
there.
that.
I'll cry. I'll start crying right now.
Don't tell me that. I don't need that in my life. But there's a lot to unpack with this, like a lot. I want to impress upon people something here, because we've talked a lot in this sphere in general, but also on this channel specifically, how unnecessary it is when they do these, race swaps. It doesn't matter if it's, white to black or white to Asian or any, permutation thereof. That's always unnecessary. There is no shortage at all of up and coming actors and actresses who have a drive and a talent who would be actually good for a role, right? That would also look the part, because when you're adapting something, despite what people on Reddit or on Twitter or on YouTube and other spheres, I'm sure, or in the mainstream media might try and tell you and sell you on, the way a character looks and is described in their original source material is relevant to the story. Why? Because that's how the creator created them.
Right.
Plain and
Well,
simple.
look, that's not to say that there aren't some ambiguous characters that,
And there
you could
are some that are
absolutely
ambiguous, and
swap.
that's because the author specifically wasn't like envisioning something specific for this character. And so they're like, okay, this is the tone, this is the voice of this character. What their race is doesn't matter to me.
Right.
This voice
who they
is
could
what
have
matters.
swapped. You know who they could have swapped that would have actually wouldn't have been a problem? Flitwick. If you wanted to make a more diverse,
Flitwick is
panel
just
of
supposed to
teachers,
be a little person.
he's part goblin.
Yeah.
And so
Well, what I mean is as far as like the actor.
Yeah, like
The actor would have.
there's no explanation whatsoever. So because he's of mixed heritage or whatever, you could have done the same thing with him that you did in Fantastic Beasts with the Lestrange family line, where these are ambiguous, and so while it may be a little bizarre and jarring, then you weren't quite ready to see
Kind
this
of on the
mixed race
nose,
family.
yeah.
But I don't have a complaint about it,
Right, because there's nothing in the source material where you can point to where it's like this character was described as such, and you're doing something else.
And look, to be clear, I'm of the same point. Like, if you went and swapped Cho Chang's race, I would be mad. I would be mad because it would be in direct opposition to what we know her to be. If you went and swapped Kingsley Shacklebolt's race, I would be incredibly upset. If you
This dude should be Kingsley Shacklebolt, because he looks. This is okay. Hold on. This is not an original thought. That I will credit Harry Potter Theory for this one. Kingsley Shacklebolt is a handsome, strapping, like strong black man character that Rowling created. Snape is supposed to be a genuinely unattractive, pale guy. This right here, that, like, all things considered, that's like a strong looking, attractive male black guy, right? Like, he has no business playing an unattractive, pasty white dude. Like, he could be Kingsley easily. Easy.
I mean, so here's the thing. You're not supposed to like the way that Snape looks.
No.
There's a reason that Snape is supposed to be unattractive. And that's because you're not supposed to like him. You are no look. I'm not being superficial here. There's a narrative reason why it's incredibly important. Look, Pop, however you say his name. Like, I'm not hitting on the guy. I don't know him, and I haven't seen any of his work. But just on surface level, when you look at him, he's a pretty good looking guy. He's got an attractiveness to him that makes him immediately exude a measure of charisma that we need to avoid with Snape. Okay, it is incredibly important that Snape not be able to garner visual charisma right off the bat, because our first impressions of Snape are from Harry's perspective. They are visual, and he's uncomfortable, and he doesn't like the way he looks. And so his bat-like demeanor, his hooked nose, his greasy hair, his sallow skin, these are all things that are meant to immediately repulse us from the character. Okay, it's supposed to be really, really hard to get on board with Snape.
Yep.
And that's because, spoiler alert,
Well, that entire first book, it's leading you to believe that Snape is the one who is actually trying to steal the Philosopher's Stone, right? But the trick, the shift, is that he's not, right? He's actually on Dumbledore's side.
Right.
And so you get this, and I think this is what you were building towards, this connotation all of a sudden by race swapping Snape specifically. Is all of a sudden you just turned the one Hogwarts professor whose allegiances and loyalties and trustworthiness and everything like that was constantly being called into question as to whether or not this person was trustworthy. You just made them a black person.
Yep, you really did. And not only did you make him a black person, you made him poor. Okay, so one of the problems, and I know that you're going to probably elaborate on this to a certain extent, Andrew. So I'll defer back to you when I kind of wean my way back around to the.
You are the expert
lynching.
among experts. I defer to you in all things Harry Potter, but I will be happy to carry along.
So Severus Snape is poor. He's a poor kid who dresses in terrible clothing. I bookmarked some pages for you here, Jeff. This is why you brought me, right? Okay, so I got you. If you go to chapter 23 of the 7th book, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, you'll go to the chapter 23, which is known as the Prince's Tale. And when you get into that, you get this description of Snape, who is creepily watching Lily Potter for the uninitiated, from the bushes, because he is taken with her immediately. And then when he comes out from the bushes, it describes the clothing that he is wearing. Okay, so no, said Snape, he was highly colored now, and Harry wondered why he did not take off the ridiculously large coat, unless it was because he did not want to reveal the smock beneath it. He flapped after the girls, looking ludicrously bat-like, like his older self. So it compares young Snape to his older self. He never garners anything resembling the ability to dress appropriately. He never ever gets his ability to be clean and kept and put together. That never happens. It doesn't happen to him all throughout school. At no point is Snape dressed like someone who has the capacity to do better. Okay, he's an incel. Okay, Snape is an incel. And so now Snape goes from being a bizarre, weird little boy who's just kind of poor and weird and gangly to a poor black boy. Who the Marauders, for those of you who haven't read the books, that is James Potter, that is Sirius Black, that is Remus Lupin. These are Harry's father, godfather, best friends, the ones who are responsible for the torture of Snape's childhood. So Snape goes from being a weird, poor little boy to an adult incel. And the Marauders go from being childhood bullies of a weirdo kid to racists who beat up and lynch a young black boy. And I'm going to let you extrapolate on the lynching.
Well, no, like it literally in correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, when Harry is being trained by Severus in occlumency in order to protect his mind from being invaded by Voldemort. He sees the memories of Snape from when Snape was a boy at school, and they literally, and by they I mean James Potter, so Harry's father. This is an incredibly powerful moment for Harry in the books, because he realizes his father was not a perfect person when he was in school. He had wanted to believe that his father was this just from start to finish this upstanding, gallant knight of a wizard. No, his father was actually a pretty crappy person when he was in his youth.
Yeah.
He grew out of it for sure and he matured. But when he was at school, he was kind of a little shit. And he and Sirius, Lupin, not as
A
much.
privileged little white boy.
Yeah. Lupin did not, participate, but he also didn't protest really either. But James Potter hung Snape from a tree at one point.
So there are two angles. So he uses the Levicorpus one, and it's right next to a tree, but it effectively lands like a lynching when you introduce the race dynamic, and we see this twice. There are two reasons that this is a problem, because it not only paints James Potter as a racist, it paints Lily as cold and indifferent and ununderstanding. So there are two angles. The first time we see it is Severus's memory. His memory. The first time, and then the second time is we see the whole thing where he has an exchange with Lily Evans that evening afterwards, because he calls her a mudblood right afterwards. So it's Lily Evans, Lily Potter, Harry Potter's mother, the one who he gets his eyes from, who puts a stop to the whole thing. Now in the middle of it, she tells him to stop. He's being a toe rag, he's an ignorant little toe rag, right? When you introduce that race dynamic, it turns it into a lynching initially, but then also she doesn't want to hear it because he calls her a mudblood.
Yeah.
Now, when you introduce the race dynamic, you now make it a black boy who is in a racist mode, who calls her a mudblood because he was forced into that racist mode. Not an unacceptable slur that was introduced for no reason because he's clearly a bigot. You now understand, oh, he went there because he's black and he's just been lynched. And so you could forgive him, but she doesn't. She doesn't forgive him because it's unforgivable. It's an unforgivable slur, unless he's a black boy who just got lynched and was in that mind frame. And so now Lily has no reason to not be sympathetic to him. If anything, she should understand exactly where he's coming from, exactly why he's hurt, exactly why he's upset, because she too is one of the disenfranchised minority. So now, not only is James Potter a racist who just lynched a poor little black boy, Lily Potter is a hypocrite who can't understand how race or minority status was brought into it when he just got lynched. Are you kidding me? Lily Potter is the heart and soul of this story. Lily Potter is the reason that Harry Potter is capable of love in the midst of all of this tragedy. You destroy her. You destroy her legacy. You make her a cold, indifferent, unfeeling hag who should be identifying with him, but instead is selecting the wealthy little white boy instead. That's what you turn this into when you bring race into this.
J.K. Rowling layered in, she did it right in the books. She layered in non-specific social and political commentary into her books. And it's in a very general sense, right? Like you look at the Ministry of Magic and if you go through the books when you're at an age where you can comprehend deeper meanings to things, you realize that she's warning you of the kind of totalitarianism that can come from government, right?
And the dangers of bigotry.
Exactly. And she warns of that as well. And it's in a very broad sense. It's not pointing to one skin tone or another. It's not pointing to, men versus women, things like that. She uses it in a very universal sense. And when you're speaking in universal senses like that, it's something that literally anybody can relate to at one point of their life or another. And that's what makes it something that people can latch on to. That's what makes it powerful. That's what makes it not like preachy, right? Because you're not just trying to hammer on one very specific thing or another. But what you do when you turn, especially a character like Snape, black, is you repaint so much of this story in a very negative light. It really changes it takes characters' actions that were like, that was immature and stupid because you were young and immature and
Mhm.
stupid, to something that more comes across as malicious and targeted. And you end up really ruining a lot of the beauty of the deeper part of the storytelling that was going
Mm.
on.
And I don't wanna, like, overly dominate the story. I definitely wanna or dominate the conversation. I definitely wanna leave room for Jeff or Script to, like, pop in with anything, but there are a million examples of this throughout the story. I don't know, are either of you familiar with the trope of a black man in a dress? Or have either of you seen
Do you
that
mean
across
like how
Hollywood?
all big actors tend to have the same characters they play, like Big Mama's House or Eddie Murphy is
Yeah.
whatchamacallit?
Well, it's like
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
a demeaning. There's a conversation that's been had online about strong male black actors are always forced at some point in their career to get into a dress, and it's meant to demean them. And I don't pretend to be a perfect. I don't know exactly everything about this particular trope, but if you look it up online, strong black men, strong black male actors being forced into dresses, you will see that there's a conversation that's been had about this over and over and over again, that it's a little worrisome. It turns out it happens a lot, and you don't realize it until you start looking at all these examples that are laid out to you. And there are theories as to why that is, and it is a conversation and it could be had, but it does seem to happen quite a bit. Now, Andrew could tell you that suddenly, do you want to explain that to them, Andrew, what that looks like?
Yeah,
For why this is a
so
problem?
well, to kind of complete that thought, but then bring it to where it applies specifically within Harry Potter, you see a lot of these, black male actors who look like, they're jacked, they're very strong, they look like they're very masculine, and they play in a lot of masculine roles. But every now and then, you'll see them in a role where all of a sudden they're dressed very strangely, or like they'll be on the cover of a magazine or the interiors of a magazine, and they'll be in something that either resembles a dress or it's a dress outright, and it feels like a deliberate emasculation,
Emasculation. Yeah.
right, of that individual. This applies here because in book 3, Prisoner of Azkaban,
Mhm.
which we could surmise is probably going to be season 3 for this show,
A
there
ritual
is
humiliation, exactly, Stacey. It's a ritual humiliation is the
yes,
assertion being made,
yeah.
and you now turn this into another example of that with Snape.
Exactly. Because Professor Lupin is in book 3, year 3 for Harry and his friends. They are being taught by Remus Lupin in dark arts or defense against the dark arts, right? And what they do is there is a thing in the Harry Potter world called a boggart. And it's this ambiguous thing. Nobody knows what it truly looks like. But what it does is when it's not in the shadows, is it takes on a visual and physical form of whatever the thing is that you fear most. Now, one of the characters in the Harry Potter franchise is Neville Longbottom. Hilarious name. He's a beloved character, but he's a bit of a ditz, especially in his younger years. But he is terrified, more so than even most of the rest of the students, of Professor Snape. So
Mm.
when this boggart, this ambiguous thing that will manifest itself as the thing you fear most, comes out of this wardrobe and is going to take on this manifestation of the thing Neville fears, it's going to take on the manifestation of Snape. And it does. However, what the trick is with a boggart is to laugh it away. So figure out a way to turn whatever your fear is into something you can laugh at. And that's
Right.
Rowling making commentary on people who struggle with fears, right? Figure out a way to twist it and turn it around so you can overcome your fears. That's actually a powerful messaging, but that's something else here. For Neville specifically, what he does is he pictures, at the behest of Professor Lupin, he pictures Snape wearing
actually
his
got the-
grandmother's
I actually
clothing.
got the passage. Can I read it really quickly?
Yeah,
be
go
super-
ahead.
Okay, so it's in chapter 7 of book 3. It's called The Boggart in the Wardrobe. Okay, now just like he explained leading up to it, Neville is terrified of Professor Snape, and for probably good reason, even if it does kind of show that Neville's a pansy, but it also shows how much he grows, right? So they've got the Boggart in the Wardrobe, and then So a jet of sparks shot out of the end of Professor Lupin's wand and hit the doorknob. The wardrobe burst open. Hook-nosed and menacing, Professor Snape stepped out, his eyes flashing at Neville. Neville backed away, his wand up, mouthlessly wording. Snape was bearing down on him, reaching inside his robes. Ridiculous! Squeaked Neville. There was a noise like a whip crack. Snape stumbled. He was wearing a long, lace-trimmed dress and a towering hat topped with a moth-eaten vulture. He was swinging a huge crimson handbag. There was a roar of laughter. The boggart paused, confused. So now you have a group of children racists. Instead of laughing at the misfortune of this terrible, evil, awful teacher, you have a trope that has been imbued into our culture with potentially incredibly nefarious implications being perpetuated by this show, by this series. So now you have that subcontext to all of this, which honestly is disturbing because he's just supposed to be a jerk. Snape is just supposed to be a jerk who has this coming. Now you've got another black guy in a dress.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the kids laughing at him. What the crap? Why would you do this? Why would you do this? And now, if this black man manages to not pull off writing that is clearly relying on gimmicks in order to accomplish what it is that they're trying to accomplish, guess who's going to get blamed? Guess who you're going to drag out of the woodwork? The real racists. The racists who are looking for reasons to be angry about something. Guess who's going to come out and start screaming at this poor guy who probably didn't make the best decision, but could you blame him when he was handed an offer like this? Right? Like
he's probably making a nice penny off of the roll.
I'm just saying, like, you set him up for this. You set him up for this. What happens when he can't pull off subpar writing? You relied on a gimmick. You relied on a race baiting card to draw attention to this. Harry Potter didn't need that kind of help.
No.
Harry Potter is the best-selling fantasy franchise of all time. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Why did you do this? What did you, like, was that so incredibly daunting of a task for you that you couldn't pull off the thing that was gift wrapped for you and handed to you on a platter? You couldn't do that, so you had to instead turn around and race bait it? That's bizarre to me.
Well, fans will be blamed at the end of the day, which is the also a sad part. Like the sad part is there will be attacks on the actor directly. When it should be directed towards the studio and the people who made the decisions. But unfortunately, like, the fans will get attacked as well, just because we were promised one thing. We were promised this was going to be a more book accurate representation and adaptation of the books, right? That's what we were told. That's what we were sold on. That's the entire reason why I got excited for this. Even though it hasn't been okay, so what? The 2011 is when Deathly Hallows Part 2 aired in theaters, I think.
Yeah. Well, 2010, okay. I thought. It was 2010, 2011, something like that.
Okay, so something like that. Okay, so it's been a decade and a half. That's been a little bit of time. There are a lot of people who would make an argument that you don't need to reboot or retell that story in live action so soon. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, those same people, I'd love to know their opinions on the reboots of the Spider-Man movies, because that's been rebooted 3 times in the same amount of time.
Whoa, Nelly, Andrew, we all know how you feel about it.
Hey, listen,
Tobey Maguire was the best. We know.
Tobey Maguire's your favorite. I get it. He's not the best. But
the numbers prove differently. He got to finish his trilogy.
Wow. That's disrespectful. That's disrespectful. I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate that at all. That being said, the reason why a lot of people got excited about this TV series on HBO Max was because we were promised specifically. It wasn't them saying, "Hey, we're just going to retell the Harry Potter story in live action, but doing it in a TV show format," right? They specifically used the language and the verbiage of, this is meant to be a more accurate adaptation of J.K. Rowling's material, J.K. Rowling's books. I want to say two things here. Yes, this casting for Snape is abysmal for all of the reasons that Mary and I just laid out and more. If literally everything else is more faithful to the books than the movies were, which is a low bar, it on net would still technically come out as more accurate as an adaptation, as long as the performance that this guy, because I'm not going to attempt to butcher his name either, gives is still the character. Visually, he's still not the character. And those connotations, those negative connotations are still going to be there. This really, really puts this show on the back foot. And I'm not going to say that all of a sudden I'm not going to see like, okay, so what else did they screw up? Or what else did they get right? But this is really putting them on the back foot in a way that they didn't have to, because this is a horrible, horrible decision. Not just for, race swapping's sake, which I'm not a fan of and I hate, but this adds a lot of negative connotations
I want
to
to
the
bring
race
something
swap.
up, and you can tell me, you can back me up here or not. If I'm incorrect, you can totally correct me here. Andrew, do you remember? I think it was last fall at some point, and I got into a back and forth with someone else in your Discord over the sort of DEI and blackwashing of Hermione, which we all expect to occur because of the banter that's been around her for years that Hermione could be black and what they did with the cursed child or whatever. And you remember the stance that I took on it, right? Was that they're going to turn her black. I know that they're going to do it. I'm going to brace for it now because I don't want to hate this series. I don't want to be in opposition to this thing that I love. I want to look for all of the reasons in the world to love this, because I try to be an optimist, because I try to lean towards what is good and to try to not focus on what is bad. And if it's just skin deep, I can't think of any narrative reason why I have to be super, super, super in opposition to Hermione being black. Right. Except that she's Muggle born and there's some commentary to make about that. But it's not going to super impact too much of the story. Right. It's a little on the nose, but okay. The ones she's in opposition with are the bad guys, not the good guys. But I was ready and prepared to love it anyway. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the one that you want to turn against your series, because I'm willing to
you were even willing to make that concession for that character, but Severus is a whole another beast.
Severus is a whole
that's a hard
sabotages
line.
The story. I don't want to hate this series. I am here in good faith. I'm not the one you want to alienate. I have loved these characters since I was a little girl. I have been here with you, Rowling. I have been here with you from day one. I love these characters. I love them, and I'm willing to tolerate a lot. I am not some woke ideologue or some anti-woke ideologue. I am happy to accept superficial changes where it doesn't deteriorate the story at its core, where it doesn't change things. I'm not the one to alienate, and I'm hard to alienate. This was the way to do it. If you were going to try to find a way to alienate someone who loved this and wanted to love it relentlessly, who's relentlessly loyal to this franchise, this was the way to do it. You have time, okay? Pull a Sonic. HBO, pull a Sonic. They listened to the fans. I told you earlier, Andrew, I was like, I'm going to pull something. You're going to love this. This is it. Turn around. You can change. You can do this. You can fix this now. Listen to your fans. This is everywhere. This is not just me. This is not just the anti-woke crowd. This is everywhere. No one wants this casting. No one wants it. Look what happened with Sonic. Look how successful it was.
It's been extremely successful and profitable. Yeah.
Just I'm tell
bro, hey man, like this is actually, I think we made the wrong choice here, but Kingsley Shacklebolt is like your boy. Like, own this role.
Name?
That is a real name, and it's freaking G as hell.
Oh, you should see
That's
him.
like
He's
cool as Kit
amazing.
Harington. Like that's an awesome name.
No, dude,
Yeah.
like, and he's also like Rowling writes him as just like the most chill, cool guy
he's
you could possibly
beast.
imagine.
Oh, wait, that's a Harry Potter character. I thought you just told me that's someone's real name. I'm like, that is a cool name.
No,
It
that's
is-
the
well, it
that's
is
the
a cool
name of the
name, though. It is-
character.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
anybody can make up
absolutely
a
is.
cool character name. I thought somebody was born with that. I'm like, that's a bitchin' name.
You can
So,
do this. You can do
I
this.
have
You
to push
can-
back against the Sonic argument because that movie was already shot, and you can replace a CG character. It's very expensive and difficult
This
to replace
movie's
a
not
human
shot.
live action character.
This movie is not shot. This movie is not shot.
It's not a
Or
movie.
this,
It's a series.
is
No,
not
it
shot.
hasn't
This
been
movie
shot
isn't.
yet.
The series isn't shot. You have
No.
time. They can turn this around. They can backtrack now. They
But
should
you're
be
you're
reading.
operating on the presupposition that Harry Potter is going to be white.
You're right.
The
I am.
the
He has
silence
green
there.
eyes.
Oof.
Well,
You're
yeah.
right. I am.
He's
He's green
black.
eyes,
What
and they
happens
said
if
it was
his
going to be
parents
book
are black?
accurate.
If his parents are cast as by black actors and Harry Potter is a black actor,
Okay, I'm going to tell
your
you.
entire narrative goes right out the window. Now that hasn't happened yet, so
It
like, the
hasn't
point still
happened, and I'm
stands.
hoping they
But
don't,
if
he's
that
green
does
eyes.
happen, then the entire racism angle is gone because then it goes back to what it was in the book, which is poor for being poor, half-blooded wizard versus pure-blooded wizard, which is the real discrimination within those books. If I'm correct,
Yeah.
then that argument is gone.
Look, I'm not saying they will pull back. I'm saying they should. I'm saying they have precedent to say it's a good idea to do so. If you look, one of the biggest problems that the book accurate people had with Harry was he was supposed to have green eyes. Do you know why the green eyes are so important? The eyes are the window to the soul, and genuine love, sacrificial love, is kind of rare, and green eyes are the rarest color of natural eyes in the world. This is not, I didn't come with it, but go look at the interviews that Rowling has done. She's spoken on this. This is part of the story. It's weaved into the fabric of who
Well,
Harry
Harry's
is.
also
He's
supposed to
green.
have his mother's eyes.
He's
So
supposed
many
to have his mother's
characters
eyes.
continue
They're
to
green.
call
It's
him.
rare.
Yeah, they constantly say that, yeah, you have your mother's eyes. And when they're saying that, they're looking at his green eyes, and Lily Evans or Lily Potter had green eyes as well.
This is woven into the fabric of the storytelling. She's talked about this. Rowling has spoken about this at length. You can find her speaking about the importance of Harry Potter's eyes and how they are the window to the soul and how they are the reflection of Lily Potter. Green eyes are the rarest, quote unquote, common eye color in the world, which means like the link that is made between the eye color and the fact that true love, sacrificial love, the kind of love that Lily displayed when she placed herself between Voldemort and Harry, is incredibly rare and important. And Harry inherited those eyes. I didn't write your story, Rowling. You did. And you told me it was important. You told me it mattered. Does it? I'm just saying.
I think the answer is sadly no. This is like it's like in Wayne's World, where remember when they finally get the deal and they're doing the show and they're like, it's in Wayne's basement, but it's not Wayne's basement, and it says it's Wayne's World, but it's really not. It lost the spirit of the show. I feel like the more this goes on, the spirit of Harry Potter is going to be lost for a lot of people. And look at, what was it, Rings of Power? That show was what, $1 billion for how many episodes? They spent all this money, and
it's over $1 billion a season, really. At this point, it's a it's a financial disaster. It doesn't really do a dent in Amazon's bottom line, but still,
no, they're sending Katy Perry to outer space. They're going to be okay. Like,
yeah. Well, not
their
technically
priorities are
not outer
different.
space, just this one of the stratospheres.
It'd be cool if they went to inner space. That's a good movie. Thank you, script. That was just for you. But no, Mary, I love the passion that you're bringing to this, because I'm going to be completely honest. I'm a pop culture guy. I'm a culture guy. I care about all these things. But Harry Potter's never been my cup of tea. But it's actually interesting to hear you talk about it in a passionate way, because I've sat through these movies. I tried to read the books. It wasn't really for me, but it makes me see the value in these things and to understand the other perspective of why people are so passionate. Because some people might see me as just the guy that, I didn't like Disney Star Wars, so I took a stance or whatever and made a book. But I feel that way about a lot of entertainment. I love the optimism you have, and I wish that we would just live in a world where they just straight up adapted stuff 1-to-1. Like, look-wise. I can live with, like, oh, the actors from Scotland, not Ireland, or this, like little shit like that. Stupid. I don't need
Or
that.
things
Yeah.
like look, we praise the hell out of the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings trilogy, but
Yeah,
those things
yeah.
actually changed quite a lot. What they kept was the spirit and the tone of the books, but they made them work in a film format, because a one-to-one adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's trilogy would not work on film. Those movies would not have made the money that they did. Because
Each individual film would be about 8 or 9 hours.
Yeah, if not even longer, they'd be in the double digits. You'd have spent your first 4 hours just freaking chilling with Tom Bombadil,
Yeah.
right? Describing trees. Like that's just it works in prose,
was a
but not
fan.
on film.
It's because we had fans creating that movie.
Yeah.
You will never convince me that the people creating this are fans. You should have gotten with people like Super Carlin Brothers, with Movie Flame, with Harry Potter Theory. You should have gotten with them.
Mhm.
You should have had them have some input on this. They would have told you. They would have told you the problems that you are facing now. Why didn't you do that?
And these are people to hammer more on this point. These are people who love the movies, but are still able to recognize the things that were like
Yeah.
you. So there's a script. We've talked about this so many times. I feel like on this show, where you can have discussions with fans, but some fans won't understand the changes that do need to happen from one medium to another in order to adapt it in such a way that it's successful and in such a way that it works. Not everyone who is a gigantic fan of a particular IP understands that. The people that Mary just rattled off the names of, these are people who do appreciate the adaptations that were done already for this property, but
We've already been
recognize
broken
that,
in.
that there are things that still could have been tweaked and done better while still making it work in a film capacity, right? Or in a TV show capacity.
Oh yeah, Harry Potter fans have already had their saddles broken. We know exactly what to expect in terms of reasonable changes. We loved those movies. Okay, how many times, Andrew? How many times have we sat there and talked about the changes?
I mean, you
from
and
the
I,
books to the movies.
we've watched the
with
movies
passion
over and over.
and empathy.
Yeah,
Like,
we've
complete
watched them.
understanding.
We've watched the movies over and over together. Loving them and enjoying them, but also recognizing like, this thing they did here, they didn't need to do that. That change there did not make this a more effective,
But not
like,
an ounce of anger.
movie.
Not an ounce of anger, not anything in terms of vitriol. Like, we understood as fans that they had to fit a book, sometimes a very big book, into a movie that had, a 2-hour running length. And so we understood some changes, and there were some things that we disagreed with, but we were perfectly happy to give them room to run. And we've already had our teeth cut on this. We've cut our teeth on this. We understand. We are malleable, pliable fans, and we come from all stripes. We are all over the place. Harry Potter fans are perfectly happy to accept some changes. They have to not be game breakers. Okay, this needs to work. You promised us a more book accurate series. You are off to a terrible start. You are off to the worst possible start. You could have changed Dumbledore and done less to impact this series in terms of race.
And that's actually a poignant thing right there, because, and that's not to say that race swapping Dumbledore is a good idea. That's actually commentary on how bad of an idea race swapping Snape specifically is. Because they actually, if you look at the credentials and the acting chops of the actors that they got here for Hagrid, for Dumbledore, for McGonagall, these are actually really great castings. However, the casting for Snape undoes all of that to such a degree, unfortunately, because of just all of the implications that it comes with. That's how bad of a decision this is. This isn't like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. This is 1 step forward, 5 steps back.
Yeah.
Narratively.
Yeah.
Not just throw out, like, I know that's difficult for people in this sphere. I understand that. I'm with you. I empathize with you. Race swaps are obnoxious. I hate them. I can't stand them. But try and remove, just on a base level, the idea that a race swap on its face, on its own, is annoying and we hate it. Because we all do, right?
We do, yeah.
This goes beyond that. This goes from beyond just the visual, which is an incredibly important part of a character, because this is how the character was designed and created. This has actual drastic narrative implications beyond that. So as a fan, as somebody who already has the visual expectation of what Severus is supposed to look like, not just from Alan Rickman's portrayal in the films, but before that, because of the sketches for the character from the books, right? There's already that expectation there, sure. But now there's these incredibly negative connotations that are added onto it with this casting. And that makes it an unforgivable curse.
So what are your thoughts on the
Wow,
fact that J.K. Rowling signed off on this man's casting for Snape?
I think that J.K. Rowling has long been woke. In a myriad of ways, and we've all known that. And so we sometimes allow the fact that she is a hardcore TERF and fights back against the sort of trans issues to color our angle on that. And I've talked with Andrew about this as well. Rowling fancies herself an incredibly kind, sweet, empathetic, progressive woman. She is like many, many, many women. She is led by her heart and not always her head. And that can make for a great storyteller. It did make for a great storyteller. But objectively speaking, Rowling wanted Dumbledore to be gay. Okay. It didn't have much impact on the original stories, so I didn't worry about it too much. She was happy to change Hermione to being black, despite the fact that she's described as having white skin. Okay. We know that Rowling is your typical white woman in terms of like the liberal mindset. And I'm going to be super, super, super I'm going to get called. Everybody's gonna be like, oh, you internalized your misogyny. Women
I don't think you'll hear that around here.
No, I know, but some toe rag will come tripping across your channel and start accusing me of having internalized my misogyny. I am so sick and tired of women shooting their mouth off. You guys are ruining everything. Okay, you're ruining everything. Shut up. Go in the kitchen and make a sandwich. I'm so sick of your crap. I'm so tired of it.
Did Mary just tell women to stop talking?
Yes, I did, because it's annoying. Because most of them are just blithering goats who have
not
no
all
concept.
of them can be as smart as you.
Well, you're very kind, but the problem here is that I love Rowling. She's a wonderful storyteller. She speaks from the heart. She's empathetic. It's beautiful. I appreciate it. But she signed off on this stuff. And that's because in many ways, she's very progressive. And you can't forget that when you're dealing with Rowling. You really, really can't. I think it would behoove her to go to the kitchen and make a sandwich. I think that it would. She might discover her estrogen levels. Okay. I'm just saying, you could find that you could be very, very, very happy if you embraced your femininity and in approached life that way. Okay. I'm just saying, cook a little bacon and slap it on an LT. I bet she does. I also bet she doesn't use it very much. I love Rowling's storytelling, and I appreciate that she pushes back on the transgender ideology. That doesn't make her not woke, and you need to be objective about these things. She's your typical white woman. I appreciate that she has a measure of faith, that she allowed Catholicism to impact the storytelling while she was writing Harry Potter. I love that from a faith perspective, but don't get it twisted. Rowling is a liberal white woman. She always has been, and she always will be. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised that she signed off on this. I could have told you this years ago that she was going to do this. It is what it is. I still love her stories, and I don't hate her as a human being. I'm just not terribly shocked. I just don't think she thought this through. I think that sometimes she doesn't. She has a history. She has a track record of not thinking through the implications of the changes that she runs with on things. And I think that she wants very much to be kind to people. And I think that she wants to not engage in bigotry of any sort. And so she's said multiple times, oh, this person could be this color or this person could be that color, because she regrets not being more inclusive when she originally wrote the story. Well, my dear, maybe you can't retroactively change what you did. You weren't that inclusive back then. You didn't think about it, and you don't get to rebrand yourself as having done that at the time. Okay, because now the story gets impacted. But much like how you could swap, they swapped things out with Sonic. This is not that far. It's not in theaters. Like Sonic wasn't in theaters, and you haven't shot this yet. You still have time to fix this. Rowling, use your brain. I know you have one in there. Use it for 5 seconds, okay? Please.
Well, Mary,
Please?
I have the answer to your question about how could Rowling do this. Easy. They're little, they're green, they're called money. It's all about the money, man. You know, I know we like to think that these people are altruistic and artists and they care about the story, but even George Lucas had a price. Like, everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man, as Ted DiBiase used to say. And there is not a single creator outside of Steve Ditko, who is a weirdo in his own regard, co-creator of Spider-Man, who's turning down the money. Who's going to turn it down if a multi-billion-dollar company comes to me and says, Jeff, we're making Wokebusters the movie, but everyone is Asian.
She could turn it down, though. If anybody could turn down the money. Okay, look, hey, no, hold on. If Elon Musk can turn down the money, so can J.K. Rowling.
What did Elon Musk create artistically, though?
I mean, he's not artistic. He's done a bunch of work in terms of the Tesla stuff and pioneering technology and things like that. And he's allowed Tesla to take a huge stock. That's his baby. Tesla is his baby, right? And so he's seen
his
Tesla
adopted baby, because he bought the company.
But you see what I mean, right? Yeah. It's not like he's not aware that there's a hit that's being taken here, and he's taken that hit. Right? You can't deny that he's taken a hit for standing up for what is right. And so I think that if anybody could have, and part of it is because he can afford to take the hit. Okay, you can afford to take the hit, Rowling. Take a look at what this does to your baby. Okay, take a look at that, because this is your baby. You worked on this for a long time. We all love it. And despite your flaws, Rowling, I love you and I appreciate you and I'm praying for you. For the love of God, don't let them do this to Snape. Please do not let this do. Please. There's still time to turn back. No one wants this. No one wants this. No one wants this. And you will make this dialogue about this series about this instead of what it should be about. And there's no quicker way to kill it. There's no quicker way to kill something. Look at what's happened to Disney. Look at what's going on with it. Look at how much money look at Snow White. Look at what they did. Do you want this? Is that what you want? Do you want to be Snow White? Stop it. Get some help.
I want him to be Snow White because I want to see more failures.
I don't. I love this IP. I do not want it to be Snow White. Jeff, I'm sorry. I don't want this to be a failure. I love this thing. I'm actually pretty invested in this. I don't want any more woke failure. I want society to get their crap together, turn around, and I'd like for Rowling to have some balls.
Well, my thing is, it's like,
I think that would be anti her trans stance.
That was the joke.
I know.
Well,
I was playing.
Glad you caught it.
I'm with you. I got you.
I'm over things from my childhood sticking around. I feel like we're the only generation where the shit that was out when we were kids is the same shit that's out when we were adults. And it's not like it's something like, for example, let's say you grew up in the 60s watching Lost in Space, and then 30 years later they made a Lost in Space movie. Imagine if Lost in Space, when it ended on regular TV, it didn't go into syndication, it just replayed on the network over and over and over and over for 30 years. That's how I feel like with Harry Potter or Power Rangers or all these things that I either was aware of or liked as a child. They just keep coming back in the exact same ways. And it's like, we don't even get to talk about anything new. Avatar is known because it makes money. It's not known because it's good. Same thing with a lot of other Marvel movies these days. Well, they're known because they don't move the needle. They're just big hits. Like, everything wants to pat itself on the back as being, well, we're a big hit, we're a big hit, we're a big hit. When does that shit get interesting again? Or when do we get something new? I'm looking for new stuff. It's like we live in the Funko Pop generation. It's just same crap, different package.
I want new too, but I also don't feel like it has to be one or the other. You know, like I love Harry Potter, and I think that people have this sort of bizarre, and I know that I say it's bizarre. That's not fair. That's not fair because it's all we've seen. But I am firmly of the opinion that they can coexist, that you can have new and old, that you can be traditional and forward thinking, that you can embrace creativity and hold on to something rooted, right? Like these things raised us, and they, I was raised on this stuff. It's ingrained into me. It taught me so much. It shaped and molded me when there were not always other things there to shape and mold me. It gave me an orientation towards what was good and what was right, and I'll always cherish it and love it. That doesn't mean that I don't want something new. I do. In fact, quite the opposite. I yearn to contribute to what is new. But like so many people who contribute to what is new, I draw from what was. And I hope that those things can coexist. We become impassioned by what shapes us. We're inspired by what was before to make what is new. Why can't they coexist? Why do we have to destroy what was old? Why do we have to go pull a Kylo Ren, let the past die, kill it if you have to? I don't see it that way. I think we can make the past, we can preserve the past and hold it in high esteem, and even put a new varnish on it from time to time. You okay, dog? All right, walk it off, rub some dirt in it. We can put some varnish on what's in the past and remind ourselves of why it was so beautiful and good, and we can make new stuff, and they can coexist. I don't think it has to be one or the other. I'm sad that we're at a place that it feels like it has to be.
Well, I mean, I'm interested as an agent of chaos myself. I'm more interested to see how the discourse continues and how it could possibly shape anything. Script, you probably have the least emotional. Well, I have the least emotional attachment, but if you were a betting man, what do you think the odds are on them listening to the audience before it goes into production?
Well, you'll never find an audience that has enough of a homogenized opinion to be taken seriously. That's the biggest problem. Why you cannot reach out to fans to have them evaluate your interpretation, because how do you select the fans? Who are the fans that are best representative of the majority of the rest of the fans? What makes them the best ones to do that? And how can we trust that their opinion is going to actually fit in with the majority? You can't. It's impossible. That's why you have to take a swing. You have to, mitigate those actions and choices, because even if you have someone like, say for instance, you mentioned Harry Potter theory. Well, what if he in private doesn't espouse the views he does on his channel and gives the bad advice to Warner Brothers? What's going to happen then? Like, you've already put all your chips on him or her. I don't know who the heck this person is. We already put your chips on them. And now Warner Brothers is listening to this person, and then all of a sudden you have an interpretation of a show that then maybe upsets the general audience, definitely upsets the core audience, but they listened to the most popular YouTuber on the subject at hand, and now you got something that you didn't want or expect. Whereas traditionally, all you're doing is you're trying to find screenwriters that understand the rules and meanings of what story is, and trying to execute that in an adaptation that fits those rules, because the book itself follows those same rules. And that's what's, that's the synchronicity that's going on here. With regards to the casting, it's suggestions that are being put forth by casting directors under the auspices of what J.K. Rowling has requested when it comes to the show, because that's how closely tied to this production she has become. So, I mean, you can preach and scream to the high heavens over at Warner Brothers that, and millions of Harry Potter fans can do that, but Warner Brothers is going to look to J.K. Rowling and say, well, your audience is saying this. What do you say? And whatever she says goes, because it's her IP. She still controls it. Warner Brothers only has the license to produce it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing.
Well, you're right. I know that. That's why I at her constantly. Help me, chat. Help me. Please.
What are you going to do if she responds one day?
Cry and then write my response 12 billion times before hitting send.
If she does, I want you to call me and be like, hey, J.K. Rowling responded.
I will cite her own work I will put in front of her what she has done. That is what I will do. I
Well,
will cite my sources, and it will be her.
As YouTubers have, like Harry Potter Theory himself. He actually lays out a good argument as to why this is a bad idea, and he cites the books. He
Yes.
knows his stuff. And look, here's the thing with normies and general audiences. As long as it was the topic of conversation, as long as it was the new hotness, as long as it was the popular thing, they weren't going to give a shit one way or the other whether or not Severus Snape was black or white. You could have done a 1-to-1 visual of Snape. They weren't going to know. They weren't going to care. There was nobody. Okay, I'm sure there are a lot of people on this planet, whatever it is, 7 billion people. I don't know the number. I'm sure there's at least one person out there in the population on this planet, revolving around our sun, who would say, why is Snape not black? Because, this is 2025 and people are retarded. I'm sure there's at least one person out there who would do that. However, the vast majority of people who are normies, who are not Harry Potter fans, would have just if it was the new most popular show, their friends were talking about it, their family was talking about it, their coworkers were talking about it. They would just watch it. And as long as it was something up their alley, they'd probably enjoy it. And it wouldn't have made any lick of a difference as to whether or not Severus Snape was white, black, yellow, pink, purple, striped like a damn zebra. It wouldn't matter. They would just enjoy the show. So at this point, all you're doing is ticking off the people who are actually fans of this and the people whom you actually made the pitch to. On social media, you pitched this series to Harry Potter fans.
Yep, that's what it comes back to.
You pitched this, and yes, if we're talking Harry Potter fans versus the general population of people who watch who watch movies and TV, yes, we are a fraction of that pool, that demographic. However, you still were courting or purporting to court us.
Hold on.
When you said that this was a more accurate adaptation, we were the people that you were trying to actually get with your words.
Jeff, I sent you a picture earlier. Okay, I want you to pull that up. And I want you to show that to everybody because this picture has history. Okay, this picture was drawn by J.K. Rowling. Okay, this is her artwork. Okay, she used to sit in a coffee shop. For those of you who aren't familiar with J.K. Rowling's backstory and all of the different things that she did, this is her artwork. She used to sit in a coffee shop and doodle on napkins. The character, she would write on napkins and she would doodle on. This is her. This is Snape. We didn't decide who and what Snape was. She did. We went along with her. We embraced what she said. And now, hypocritically, I might add, if indeed it is her, and I agree with that, I think that's probably true, script, that she has rubber stamped this. Hypocritically, she's told us, no, what I said before isn't valid because I don't like that I wasn't progressive enough at that time. So this Snape that I told you who he was and how he was and what he looked like, this Snape that I drew, my original vision, is no longer valid. It's not woke enough. Rowling, my dear, you've done a lot of good. You've put a lot of beauty into this world. You've touched me in ways that I could never truly express. We'll never stop loving what you wrote. Okay? Giggity, giggity, giggity goo. But this is not Snape. That is Snape. You know how I know that's Snape? Because that's what you told me. When you were sitting in a coffee shop, dreaming up the world that I would learn to love, this is what you made. That's what I fell in love with. And this is what you promised me. This is what you told me. This was real. What you're doing now is a bastardization. And I won't stand for it. I'm not the one to alienate. I will tolerate a lot. I'll tolerate a lot. But I will not tolerate you fundamentally eroding the basis of these characters.
Beware alienating the people who are already willing to tolerate quite a bit.
Yeah. I'm actually pretty easygoing. I was one of the few people who was like, well, do we have to get? Is this really us being worked up? Over, like, is this like? That's the first thing I'm going to do is say how uppity are we being, right? Because there's plenty of things we all get worked up over, and this is why I'm nobody's favorite. This is why I'm nobody's favorite, because I try very hard to find the middle ground. I try really, really, really hard to be the kind of person who assesses whether or not they're getting worked up over something that they don't have to get worked up over right now. Are you working yourself into a tizzy? Are you being a hysterical woman? Calm down. Take a Xanax. Okay. All right. If you're not estrogen addled, you need to relax for a second. Okay. Not everything requires us all going out guns a-blazing. Sometimes you, in order to be taken seriously, need to go, this really isn't that big of a deal. This one is. This one absolutely affects the story. Do I think they're going to change it? I don't know. Probably not. But I'm not going to shut up either way because I love this thing. So yeah, I'm going to keep adding Harry Potter. I'm going to keep adding Rowling. I'm going to keep adding Warner Brothers. I'm going to keep adding and using my voice to whatever extent I can on whatever platform I have, because I care about this thing and it matters, and it's not something I think we should blow off. And if it comes to fruition that this is the Snape, I'm going to point it out every time something happens that doesn't make any daggum sense, because it doesn't align with the story that she handed us originally, because they had to change it because he's black now, or because it's incredibly uncomfortable because he's black now and they didn't change it. You promised us book accuracy. This isn't book accurate. Or, hey, gee, doesn't this look really, 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 really similar to a lynching? Hey, Rowling, you deserve everything you get if we follow through on this. You deserve all of the Snow White treatment you get. But I really hope you will not be that unwise. I really hope that you will enact just a little bit of that Ravenclaw that I know is in there somewhere.
Maybe
Please.
apply a little bit of wisdom.
Just a little.
Let's
It
play
never goes
devil's
amiss.
advocate. Okay. Obviously, Script and I aren't this as Harry Potter deep as you are. But let's live in a world where this
I would
show
say
is
nobody
exactly
in this sphere is. So that's fair.
You mean by sphere of Earth? Yes, you two are the biggest.
Yes.
No, Blabs from Side Scrollers is a bigger Harry Potter fan than both of you put together.
No.
will
I
stand on that.
sincerely
Actually,
doubt
I would push back against that. Mary could school her in anything ever.
You know what? I'm going to call her up and I'm going to try to get her
Good.
on a stream.
Let's go.
Mary
Do it.
versus Blabs
No,
on this channel only.
Let's go. Let's go.
I'm right.
No.
I'm the Vince
No.
McMahon of this. All right?
I know Blabs. I've seen Blabs. Mary knows more.
Look, I'm not suggesting that she's. I'm not trying to be disrespectful from Blabs. I don't know Blabs from Adam, but I will contest.
Her name isn't Adam.
I don't know her from Adam. This is the chips. You know what? That's okay. I'm not going to explain that. I don't know this Blabs person. I'm sure they're wonderful and beautiful. I question anyone who purports to know more about Harry Potter than me.
I want to see that. Look,
Go. Let's do
I
it.
streamed with you both. That wasn't the question I was going to set up, though. What I was going to set up is, let's live in a world where this casting's, it is the casting, but let's say the show's a huge hit. Where do you stand as a fan? If the majority of people, like, Rings of Power pissed people off, and that's just kind of meandering and falling away. Doctor Who changed it up, and it's meandering and falling away. I think this one might be too big to fail. Not that I care either way personally, but
People said that about the MCU as well.
Well,
yeah,
morons said that about the MCU, but that's quite all right. I mean,
But
they
it
work at
doesn't
Disney. They were
change the
saying
fact
it
that people
themselves.
were saying that, and
Oh,
they were
yeah.
saying that based off of the precedent that was set by the success of the first three phases, right? Because their success was genuinely unprecedented in terms of film. However, there is no such thing as too big to fail. You can still fail eventually. It might take longer for
It might
some
take a
people
while,
than
yeah.
others, right? Some IPs have that much built up to where it's like, okay, whether it's goodwill, whether it's ignorance, no matter what it is, some IPs in terms of film adaptations might take longer to like really taper off or tank than others. However, that does not mean they are too big to fail.
Nothing's
No
too
one
big
is
to
too
fail.
big to fail. People
Agree.
forget that Marvel was in bankruptcy
Mm-hmm.
at one point.
Actually, more than one point.
Yeah,
Yeah, they were sold
you're
off
correct.
many a time.
There are multiple. There's a reason why for a while there, and still to this day, technically, certain IPs are owned by different studios, and that's because Marvel had to sell off their IPs to different studios in order to stay afloat.
Yeah, but
No one
let's-
is too big to fail.
But we're conflating a different industry just because they're all entertainment. Marvel Comics fell in the 1990s not because of just falling comic book sales, but buying a trading card company, getting involved in things that they shouldn't have done. A lot of that was even from the beginning. They sold off to the Color Max company in the 60s or 70s, and they never really had a footing until Disney kind of bought in. That's a little different. What I'm saying though is like, this is a $1 billion show. You know, this is going to be guaranteed to be what, 8 seasons since there's 8 books.
Guaranteed? What's
I don't know if I'd
guaranteed?
say guaranteed.
I
Nothing
thought
is
I read that this
guaranteed.
is they're gonna script. What do you think about?
Well,
this? You
there's
get what I'm trying
okay.
to
So
set
there are
up, though?
7 books, and there are a couple of books that you could split into 2 seasons because of just how freaking thick the books are.
Okay, look, Game of Thrones had to have 4 stellar seasons and 2 mediocre ones in order to get it through an additional 2 crappy ones. Okay, if Game of Thrones wouldn't have gotten a 9th season, okay, and they knew it. That's why they did what they did, and how they ended it the way they ended it. Right? They knew that they worn out their welcome because they had worn out their ability to adapt books and were functioning on their own capacity to write at that point.
They were working off of non-existent content.
God bless
In that
America.
case.
Like, just saying. But what I'm saying is that like even if something as big as Game of Thrones can peter out like that and recognize it's worn out its welcome, anything can fail. And I agree wholeheartedly. You can only destroy something so much before it fails, right? Now, someone may pick up the mantle later and reignite and remember that there was something there worth preserving, something there worth having. But things fail, and that can happen in any number of ways. This is a good way to go down that path. Okay,
Really
this
fast,
is
like from the
really
outset.
fast. This is a good way to make sure the series only gets 2 to 3 seasons. This is because it's that mentality. This stuff leaks. If you have the mentality that it is that is required to cast a Black person as Snape, that's not where this will end. This will not end at a Black Snape. This will permeate every aspect of the series. Okay, when you don't stop working out because you skipped a day. You stop working out because a mentality shift occurred, right? You allow your body to take on the flabby mode of someone who just didn't care enough to do it anymore. There's a mentality that has to be at place here, a mentality that disregards the source material. That is being exemplified here. This will not stop at Black Snape. This is emblematic of a mentality that will shoot the IP in the foot. Nothing is too big to fail. This is a big red flag.
Yeah,
I believe
I reject the premise of something being too big to fail. I don't believe anything is too big to fail. I think things can take significantly, sometimes longer than others. It took the MCU.
Here's
a
the
little
thing,
bit.
though. I mean, I'm looking this up now. I'm pretty sure they announced that this show was not a 1-season deal, and this is like multiple seasons.
Well, no, they announced that they were adapting, or the plan was to adapt basically a book a season. Is if we're going to assume something around like a 10-episode season, then there are going to be at least 2 books that get split into 2
here's
seasons.
the thing. As of April this year, from TV Guide, the upcoming HBO series is planned to be a decade-long series with 7 seasons. Each will correspond with 1 Harry Potter book.
Planned, but is it financed for that already?
Best laid plans. Best
Script,
laid
you
plans.
don't understand how Hollywood works. Do you think
Yeah,
they're going to
script,
just
please.
peter out on this quickly if people don't like the casting, or they're just
I
going
don't
to
think
push
it'll
through
happen
like they did
quickly.
with all of that?
It depends on how they execute that character with that casting. If the show is as faithful in dialogue and story structure and beats as they purported to say, people may tolerate it. And also there's a chance that newcomers who have not read the books will be more ingratiated with the show, just like with Game of Thrones. And I finally got to see Game of Thrones. I thought that show stunk from the get-go. I mean,
Wow, from the outset. All right.
oh God, it was ridiculous. And then, the twist at the end where Jon Snow was the nephew and not the actual, bastard son. I'm like, I kind of saw that with so much reservations of why they don't talk about it. It's like, something's off here. Oh, the sister died, but the old king married someone else. It's all weird. But regardless of that fact, no, Warner Brothers, HBO, they will essentially, they'll budget it out to have a full financing for continuation of the series from start to finish. The money's already there because it's going on to their streaming service, and then they'll probably also have licensing contracts out where for a short period they will remove it from Max and put it on an advertised dependent streamer. As long as they are getting a certain viewer threshold, that show is going to continue. And the other part too is if it's also being co-produced by J.K. Rowling, as what's being said, which means she's putting some money in because she's going to get a higher return back. As long as she wants to continue it, it's going to keep going.
Well, it doesn't seem like this is going to go away quickly.
Like the only way they might pull the plug is if they don't get a single rating point in across 500,000 on its debut season.
Movie fans will be fine with it. I'm sure of that. I'm sure movie fans will be just fine with it.
I mean, movie fans were fine with a lot of things.
Well, it's all they know because, I'm gonna
that's that
transparent.
general normie audience, right? Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. I'm never going to read Lord of the Rings on principle. I read The Hobbit in school, and Lord of the Rings is a good series of movies, but I don't like flowery, long, verbose descriptions of shit that I really don't care about. Like, I know Lord of the Rings isn't for me. I'm not a fantasy guy because fantasy's too goddamn slow for me. And walking to the Mount Doom or whatever the hell that volcano thing is, that's fine. That makes for an interesting movie. But like, I read through The Hobbit. It wasn't for me. I've tried to read Harry Potter. I gave up when he got to the train platform because everybody in grade school was into those books when they were new. And I'm like, all right, well, my grandma bought me a copy of this. Let's read Harry Potter. And I did. And I went right back to reading Star Wars books. It really wasn't for me. But I don't think the book people are going to have as much of an impact as the movie people would, because those movies are 24 years old at this point. You have an entire generation, 2 generations of people who've grown up on the Harry Potter movies as this thing, and that's all they know. And I'm a James Bond aficionado. I don't give a shit how accurate they are to Ian Fleming outside of he looks like James Bond and he does James Bond things. Like, I don't care that, they have Spectre instead of Smersh in this one, or I don't care that he drives, he doesn't use a Beretta instead of a Walther PPK. Like, those are the things that really don't matter to me as a James Bond fan. I just care that he kicks ass and looks cool. But most of the stuff that people are going to go for when adapting James Bond is the Sean Connery classic look, the iconic status, all of those things. I guess what I'm trying to set up is, at what point is it just as acceptable for the movies to be adapted, for the movie version to be considered the mainstream version, and that most people are going to only care about that one?
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not capable of, I'm not script. I can't comment on whether or not it will succeed or fail. I can't do that. I'm not equipped to do that. It's outside of my purview. I know what I know about the books because I love stories. And because I'm a fan of this IP, of the books, the original, that's when I showed up. And maybe that's worth nothing to Rowling. Maybe that's worth nothing to anybody. And that's okay. I'm not the one who gets to decide what my opinion is really worth at the end of the day. That'll bear out, and it is what it is. I can't say what's going to happen. I can only tell you what I think as an original fan of the original lore and the original source material, which should happen based on whether or not Rowling values that. That's all I can do. Maybe it'll be great in terms of revenue.
Maybe they get everything else right.
Maybe Jeff, maybe it winds up being that They land and nail every other aspect of it. I find that unlikely because of the mentality that it takes to cast a black Snape, but maybe they do. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this goes off with only a handful of hitches, and maybe it makes a ton of money. But if you're asking me what this does to the essence of the story, that's the only thing I can make commentary on. That's all I'm equipped to do. I'm very equipped to do that. And as I've laid out, it's a problem because you have to fundamentally alter these characters. You have to fundamentally change lots of aspects of this in order to accommodate a black Snape. You have to change Harry Potter at its core. And if that's what's happening here, Godspeed. But I don't think it should. And
Yeah,
as a fan,
you're gonna need some Felix Felicis.
I am.
For that.
You're gonna need some, and you're gonna need some luck. You're gonna need some luck. For those of you who don't know what Felix Felicis is, that's the potion for luck. You're gonna need a whole lot of luck, but I think it's ill-advised. And as a Ravenclaw, I don't suggest
ill-advised. I appreciate that.
it. I don't suggest it. I don't suggest it. I think it's a
To
bad idea.
you mod me, Jeff. Would you read Dune? Folks in the chat, press 1 if you think I would read Dune. Press 2 in the chat if I wouldn't read Dune. I'll tell you this: I've
Dude,
never
I'm gonna
watched.
spam Dune. I'm gonna.
I
Spam
never watched
Dune
the movie.
2 right now in the chat. Like everyone spam 2. Jeff ain't reading no Dune. He doesn't want to read Tolkien. He ain't reading no Dune.
I do not like what the majority of our audience, what you guys consider like great literature. I respect it, but it's not for me. If I'm going to read
that's
science
totally
fiction, I'm going to read Philip K. Dick. I'm going to read Ray Bradbury, who's my favorite author. Like,
Hey, that's respect.
I don't like these types of epic stories because I don't find them epic. I find them boring when they're trying to explain the dynasty of this or the history of the spice or this or
Ain't
that.
nobody got no time for all
I
that.
hate warring families. Like anything with a warring family. Like I tried to watch this stupid mob show on Paramount Plus with Pierce Brosnan. I've
Mobland,
never
yeah.
I hated that show. Did you try watching that?
No, I haven't checked it out.
I would highly recommend you don't watch it because I love me some Pierce Brosnan. I like Tom Hardy. Helen Mirren's cool, and I like the cast. And I thought, Guy Ritchie, here we go. This is my cup of tea.
Oh, if it's Guy Ritchie, yeah. That's a hit or miss here and there.
Yeah, well, this is the biggest miss since his marriage to Madonna. I hated every minute of this show. I didn't enjoy any of it. So, no, but that's the thing. It's like I can tell, like, for example, the trope of a robot trying to figure out if it's human and what that means to feel. I like it in the movie Servant, and I liked it in Blade Runner, and that's about it. Like any other type, when I see that trope in science fiction, I usually roll my eyes.
Not the Bicentennial Man?
I hate that movie with passion.
Oh, come on, man.
It does kind of slap Asimov in the face.
Look, at Mrs. Doubtfire, Aladdin. I love Robin Williams movies. I got a bunch of them out on the shelf. But, dude, that one was so weird with his, like, robotic big round head that looked like Robin Williams in the face. It just like was walking around in a suit. Like, oh man.
Note me not even arguing on that, but I do genuinely love that movie.
I was just reading the chat. Lord of the Rings and other things never appealed to me, but as a 37-year-old coming this weekend, never interested. I wonder if there's a lot like Harry Potter. I don't know how I missed it because we're all the same age roughly, and it just was like, here it comes. And I think I was like, what year did it really hit America? Like 1999? Was that when it really got big in the books section? Because the movie's 01.
Book one was 98?
But I mean, like, when did it look?
I'm Googling. I don't know when it came out in America specifically. I know when it was. Hold on. So when did Harry Potter?
Hey, Miss Ninja Julian, I've been watching Fist of the North Star for the last week. I've been watching way too much anime. I watched the movie on Sunday night.
Classic.
Okay.
Yeah, you're already dead and you don't realize it.
97.
Yeah, 97. Okay.
But I mean, like, in America, because Harry Potter wasn't big
No, it
when
was
we were in the
released
3rd grade.
98, January 1, 98.
So, okay, so 4th grade, it really picked up. I just remember people were really into it in the 5th grade. I'm just trying to figure out, like, I got into Pokemon, I guess. So, I'm just saying from a personal side, I'm like, how did I miss Harry Potter? Pokemon and wrestling. Those two, honestly.
Those will take up a lot of your life.
It was like if it wasn't as
It did
cool
for
as
me.
The Rock as a kid, I was
Weird,
just like,
weird.
I'm not into it.
Wow.
Weird.
Mary,
Wow. Okay,
a little
Rachel
British boy who waves a stick versus, somebody that beats the shit out of somebody. They're both fake, but at least they're meant to be like, there's no aggression to Harry Potter.
That's the kicker. They're both fake. Dude, you missed so much good stuff. Do you understand how much crazy, dark, weird, bizarre, gory things happen in Harry Potter?
I do, and I've watched all the movies, but the characters are kind of
The
like
movies are
cutie little dudes. Mary, I was 6 feet tall in like third grade. I
believe
never
that.
I never
believe
once
you.
related.
I believe
6 foot third grader.
I never have ever related to like a Harry Potter or some of these characters where I'm just like, why don't people I don't know, why don't they do anything else? I like a good conflict, both on the emotional and the physical level. I like a ticking clock. I like all sorts of elements that are in these Harry Potter movies. They just come together in a way that it's like the humor just doesn't work it doesn't land for me. I don't think Quidditch is anything like, it's like, okay, it's like you're on a broomstick. Well, a speeder bike's cooler to me. Like, there's so many different things that it's like Harry Potter was always a downgrade to me from Star Wars, where it's like, oh, we have all these magical things and this school and this and that. And it's like, I'm in school. I don't want to read about kids in school. It doesn't, I was on the way out. I was thinking like, oh, I'll go to high school and college and all these things. I didn't find that era of my life very interesting. I had friends. We played video games. We had our own thing.
But
Harry
to be
Potter
fair,
just was...
A woman did write it. Like, I recognize a woman wrote it.
Am
So
I
it might not
supposed to hate it
necessarily
more?
No, I'm just suggesting that it's going to resonate less with little boys than it probably will with
Mary, I agree 100%. That's very fair. Because in grade school, a lot of girls liked Harry Potter and a couple of the guys. But like when the movies would come out in like 7th and 8th grade, well, maybe it was 7th and then freshman year. But my point is like all the girls would go see it opening weekend. And it was just like this thing for them. Maybe I thought it was a girl's book as a kid and was like, Harry Potter's gay, and just didn't like it.
Rude.
The hell are you trying to say?
Oh, hi, Andrew.
Yeah.
Well, look, no. I think that the older,
I'm chopped liver. Screw me.
Hold on. No. I think that the older you get as a male, the more you can appreciate the depth in Harry Potter. Because if you actually read those books, you realize there's a lot in there that's incredibly smart. But I don't think it's necessarily aimed at little boys. I think it's aimed at maybe little girls, adolescent girls, young adult males who are huge into reading, and then males who are big into actually reading and getting into like the meanings of things, and who like to dissect stuff and understand that there's like a million different angles and a lot of complexity going on here. Like if you actually have ever read into what Rowling put into writing these stories and all of the different approaches that she took, and how much literature and old mythology and things like that are put into this, you'd be shocked and surprised. And if you're into that kind of stuff as a male, you probably enjoy it more. As far as cultural significance, now everybody likes being sorted into the houses, and so that's fab. Like everybody thinks that's
an indicator that a woman and I could never be. Like if
I knew you were gay. I knew you were gay.
I've had women ask me, like, when we were like talking, and they're like, "Oh, so what house would you be in?" And I play it along. I was like, "Explain it to me." But in the back of my mind, I go, "We could never be, because I could not. You and I would not agree on anything." It's like, oh, a Harry Potter lady. Ugh, no.
Oh wow.
Does that make Jeff a Slytherin then?
Jeff just shot down all my hopes and dreams.
Hold the fuck up there, Script. You back up. I take that. I feel very personally attacked right now.
Wait, wait, are we still on the? Never mind. What point are we on? I'm sorry, I'm laughing at the chat now.
We're on the point of Script running his mouth about Slytherin House.
What does that even mean?
That's
the bad guys, right?
It a while.
No, it's not just the bad guys.
Does Andrew drop F-bombs often? And what is going on right now?
Is the blonde guy a Slytherin, right? The one that was in Planet of the Apes?
Yes, Malfoy is, and he's a jackass and a twat. And nobody likes him, and justifyingly
I like him.
so.
He's my favorite character. Don't talk shit.
Oh my gosh, I'm done.
We're having a spirited discussion about Harry Potter, and you got to back out on me like that. Come on, man. Where are you?
What the hell is this? Where am I?
I was not expecting Andrew to break that quickly.
You know Harry from Hufflepuff.
You went against Slytherin. It was inevitable.
Yes.
So, do I want to be a Slytherin or do I not want to be a Slytherin?
You don't want to be a Slytherin, but Andrew would argue otherwise.
I would not argue otherwise. I would say it depends on your personality.
I would say it depends on whether or not you're a big fat bigot.
What's the Harry Potter movie when they had that flying creature and they were outside of the house and they were going to have to... See, you know it better than me. I just watched all those movies one time.
I would hope so. You don't know
there was like a killer cloud in one of them. That was okay looking. And then I really don't remember how it ended. I'll be perfectly honest. I mean, when the last book came out, my girlfriend in college left the CD in my car. So after we broke up, I still had it. I listened to part of it and then got rid of it. But I know some of that story. Oh, Buffalo Jeff is Slytherin. Hey, folks, are there any Harry Potter catchphrases that Buffalo Jeff should record and send to Mary?
No!
Oh, dear
No.
God.
Expelliarmus, Mary.
Nope, I'm good.
Leviosa.
I've got to go.
I gotta go.
Furiosa.
You know what? Let's check in with the audience before you do go, guys, because this has been a lot of fun. And I have been trolling the shit out of you for the last 30 minutes.
I had not heard this.
You're ridiculous.
I didn't notice. I wasn't born. I was born.
I
at
know
night,
when you were born.
Jeff. I was born at night, but I was not born last night.
Really? Because I thought the gestation. Never mind.
Wow. You know, it got you. You made it weird. You made it really weird. I don't know how you managed that.
Because I've been watching weird anime, and they, creatures like cell gestate in a couple hours.
No, you know what? Say no more. You just had to say you've been watching anime, and that would have covered it.
No, it's the weird shit from the 80s and 90s, like Wicked City, where
Wicked City is freaking weird as hell, man.
That's my cup of tea when it comes to this stuff. Or
that does not surprise me in the least.
The best one I watched was called Goku Midnight Eye. He was just a private eye who had to fight he fought robots and won. It was just cool. Folks, you should check it out. That's my recommendation. It's on Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
See, everybody's like, Jeff, watch Ghost Stories. I did. I watched another episode. I laughed. I can't watch series for hours on end because my complaint about anime is you have a really long intro, and I hate every song except the Loop on the Third theme. And then it's you got a really long outro. So it's really only 18 minutes of a show. But what I find myself doing is if I'm drawing, I got to stop what I'm doing, skip the outro, skip the intro, and then get into it. But these OVAs are great because I like the art form. I love the color palette. I've been studying it in the mornings. But these movies are my way to go. So, folks, if you have recommendations of Cyberpunk or anything from the late 80s, early 90s OVA, I'll check it out. I'm not going to jump into, was it Evangelion? It seems too pretentious for me.
No, you know what? No, hold on. Anime snobs will say that Evangelion is one of the greatest animes ever. It's not. It's actually just freaking weird. And it's weird for weird's sake. And you're not really missing that much. Yeah, aside from when they're in their giant robots. Yeah. That's basically it. You're better off watching some of the better Gundam series if you like giant robots.
I do like giant robots. Oh, dude, I was thinking of you today, Andrew. I wanted to bring this up on the show. Did you see Toho is trying to do a big Godzilla push for America? Like a bigger one?
I did. I saw that post and I'm excited and I hope they do it right because those of you who are familiar enough with me on the show, I am here for more Godzilla content. All right. Give me if the superhero films are going to start to take a back seat because most of them are crap nowadays, and the trade-off for that is more good, fun, giant monster kaiju Godzilla films, whether it's Toho stuff or whether it's legendary stuff, I'm here for it. I'm fine with that trade-off, honestly.
I want more Godzilla.
I couldn't be happier. I'm actually going to be visiting my my parents here at the end of the month. I'm going to bring my 4K Godzilla -1, Monsterverse, and Toho Godzilla Blu-ray sets with me when I go, and I'll watch it with my dad. It's going to be a good
What's
time.
his favorite one? Please tell me Mechagodzilla.
I'll be honest, I don't actually know what my dad's favorite Godzilla film is. Most of the Godzilla films that I watched growing up, I watched with my best friend when I was a little kid, who I met at like a freaking church summer camp, and stayed up all hours of the night watching the old VHSs of the horribly dubbed Toho films. So I actually don't know which one my dad's favorite is. I saw Godzilla -1 in theaters with my dad, and he loved it. He was like, "This is ridiculous. This is unbelievably good." But I don't actually know what his favorite one is. I'm gonna have to ask him.
So many good ones. Like,
There are a
my
lot.
buddy-
Biollante, Godzilla vs. Destroya. I'm personally, I love the super campy ones that are just like big kaiju battles. So I love that era where it's stuff like Godzilla Destroy All Monsters and things like that. I love that part. That part.
Outside of
Godzilla's
the Matthew
history.
Broderick one, I'm gonna watch all Godzillas.
No, I'm gonna watch that one too. I freaking love that movie. It's a horrible Godzilla movie. It's a fun monster movie.
It's a time capsule.
I love it so much. Mostly because Jean Reno's in it, and Jean Reno can do no wrong.
I don't disagree. Have you ever played that PlayStation game he was in? Onimusha 3?
Yes, actually. Yes, I have. Yes.
That was
And he's
cool.
also great in The Professional.
Oh yeah.
With a very, very Natalie Portman was like 11 or 12 in that movie.
All right, trivia time, Andrew. What's the cartoon she's watching in the movie?
I don't remember, man. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not even gonna try.
Transformers.
Was it Transformers? Okay. I'm gonna take
She's
your word
watching an
for it.
episode of Transformers. I
gonna
just
take your
remember
word
that as
for
a
it.
kid.
Because
I
I have
haven't-
not watched that movie in so long. I have it on DVD. I just have not watched it in forever.
That was something I had on tape as a kid. We got it from a family member and we just never gave it back. So 6-year-old, see, that's why my taste in movies and stuff is so weird, because at 6 years old, I saw that movie and you're thinking that's a little extreme. It was, but I saw it and I understood the story and I liked it. And so that's kind of, now I'm just answering my question for everybody on the air that's listening in the future. That's why some of this stuff that we talk about, you're like, how do you not like that? That's why, because I got into other stuff quickly. But maybe I need to go back and give these things a watch. I'm glad I watched Lord of the Rings, because we were watching The Fellowship. That's a really good movie. I don't really like Return to the King as much as other people, and Two Towers is just fine. But that first one is a really good movie. And that's the one, if I'm going to have to watch
That's my
one,
favorite of the three, actually.
it's the only one I really
It's
enjoy
It's a
watching.
really good one. Return of the King is good, and I'm very disappointed in you.
I mean, there's only one return, Mary, okay? And it ain't of the King, it's of the Jedi.
Wow.
What movie is that from?
Wow. I don't. Wait. What movie is that statement from?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Chat, tell Mary, please tell Mary what movie that's from, because I would love to take credit for it, but that'd be plagiarism, and I don't do that shit.
Proud of you. Proud of you.
Proud of you.
There we go. Shrubbles08 got it right away. Clerks 2. Overkill 161 was right after
That would
him as well.
explain why I don't watch trash.
I haven't seen Clerks 1, so I couldn't comment.
I would never recommend it unless you're trying to look at what somebody can do as a passion project, because that dude maxed out his credit cards. He worked nights and days, slept on the floor, edited in the video store, and put out a movie that changed his life. So,
Hey, man, respect.
God bless.
that's why I like Kevin
Respect.
Smith movies, and the Viewers Universe stuff is fun. But I like those movies because it's just somebody, any of us, that was like, "Hey, I got a vision. I'm gonna make this happen," and it worked. So that was legit.
God bless him. God bless him.
Yes, Jan Silent Bob, John Thomas, snooch to the nooch. By the way, Andrew, as a gamer, did you see they added them to Call of Duty and what they cost?
Dude, I'm going to be real with you right now. I haven't paid attention to Call of Duty since
It's
Call of Duty Advanced Warfare on the Xbox One, where
Their commercials are everywhere,
I don't watch TV.
nor do I. They just pop up on everything I watch. I get that.
I have
Jay and
I have
Silent Bob.
YouTube Premium. I don't see commercials on that either.
Oh, I use some programs to avoid. I haven't seen an ad on
Smart.
YouTube since 2000 ever.
The last Call of Duty I played was Advanced Warfare, where Kevin Spacey played the jackass, and it was actually a genuinely great Call of Duty campaign, and I loved the heck out of it. But beyond that, I haven't played the franchise, so I couldn't tell you.
All I'm saying is they added Jay and Silent Bob as DLC characters, and it's
Okay.
$20 just to play as them, and you don't even get to keep them. Like they go away after the end of the season, and I'm like, I could get behind. Like I actually considered buying Jay and Silent Bob. I was like, I really like them. I would want to play. I want to scream "Stooch" to the nooch as I shoot people. But then, if I thought they go away, it's just it's a scam. Like earlier in the year, folks, I was fairly positive about my Call of Duty experience. Then I stopped playing it, and I'm never gonna go back.
I'm just bad at the game, or at least I'm bad at the multiplayer. I can play the game on veteran with no issues whatsoever, but put me in a multiplayer lobby and I'm trash at the game. I'm bad. Like I won't make any excuses whatsoever. I'm just not good at it. I used to be really good at Halo, like back in like Halo Reach, even Halo.
Because Halo's the shit.
Well, Halo was awesome. Halo Reach, I would play strictly SWAT, where it's like if you're not getting headshots, you're wasting your time and your ammo, and you're probably going to die. After that, like Halo 4 was just a reskinned Call of Duty. They changed the gameplay so much. It was ridiculous. But I'm bad at multiplayer for most first-person shooters anyway. I'm just not good at them.
I thought I would suck at Call of Duty, and then I really got into this most recent one, and I'm surprised that, like, I'm not bad at it. Like, when I stopped playing, I was getting like 30 kills a game.
Oh shoot!
I was that's pretty good. When your score's to 100 with a team of 5, and I'm almost a third of all of it. I was like, I'm okay with this.
That's pretty not bad.
Because anything about that's where gaming is so different for so many people. I don't like the story-based, slow, drawn-out stuff. I like the skill-based. You have to respond instantly. It's all about your actions determine if you live and die. Even something as basic like a Tony Hawk. It's all about the skill of how many tricks you can get, this and that. I tried sitting down and playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I was met with a 30-minute opening, and I was just bored out of my gourd. Like, that kind of experience for a game isn't what I'm looking for. I want to be tested, like with wrestling. Like, put it on expert, and let's see if I can hang. I put all my games on hard. I'd rather lose a bunch and get better at it, like I'm Neo in The Matrix.
I always play all my games at the highest difficulty that's available from the beginning.
Yeah, Star Wars was fucking hard. That lightsaber parrying on the hardest difficulty, at first I couldn't get it.
For which one? You talking about Jedi Fallen Order?
Yeah, Cal Kestis.
Oh yeah, like okay, so if you're playing on Jedi Grandmaster mode, the parrying window is so small, it's infinitesimal. It's a really small parrying window. Yeah, that doesn't play around. If you're playing on that mode, you're basically playing Dark Souls.
Maybe I should give Dark Souls a shot.
Maybe.
Our friend Swift -1 says Harry Swift and the Swiftifer Stone. I like that one. Swiftifer Stone. Chamber of Swifts, Swift of Azkaban, Goblet of Swift, Swift of the Phoenix, that's a good one too, Half-Blood Swift, and Swifty Hallows. Actually, I'm going to take a picture. I have a friend that's a Taylor Swift and Harry Potter enthusiast. I think she'll appreciate the crossover. Swift, if I decide to go and do some t-shirts with these logos, I'll give you a call and send you your cut. Thank you, though, Swift -1. Let's see. So it'd be like the Fellowship of the Swift, the Swift Towers, and Return of the Swift. Is that for the Lord of the Rings trilogy?
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Let's see. That one came earlier about the 4chan. Thank you, Sir Georgian. There was another one about 4chan too that I had to go to. So Enrique says, so according to Side Scrollers, they leaked the IPs and the mods and the regular people. Most of the mods had emails with .gov. Also, thanks, Jack White. We binged both seasons of Solo Leveling. Really great recommendation. What do you guys think of Epic Universe? Can I get a detention button? Yes, Enrique, all those, but let's answer your message first. So first off, Enrique, thank you for being a member for 26 months. Appreciate that, my friend. Guys, I guess I got to look more into the 4chan stuff. I'm not going to make any videos, but this is a red letter date in internet history. And yes, I'm being hyperbolic. Solo Leveling is on my Crunchyroll list, folks. I'm trying to come up with a reason not to cancel Crunchyroll. So, hook me. Tell me why I should keep it. Give me a reason to keep the service, because I want to get into more of these movies. I can't. Mary, you got to head out. You want to say goodbye to everybody before you go?
Yeah, if you have any super chats aimed at me, I'm happy to. I don't know if I don't want to.
Let me check real quick.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to like
see.
dip before because
Mary,
don't
I
wanna-
understand. I appreciate you being here and hanging out with us for almost 3 hours. And
Such a
believe me,
good time. I had such a good
Well,
time.
I
It's
was
hard
I was gonna tell you off air, but I'll tell you in front of the whole world. We have to do this more often. So when you
Oh.
get available on a Tuesday,
Well, I'm actually available on Tuesdays a lot more often these days. So holler.
well, will you be available after this message from our friend Troubles 08?
Oh God.
Abracadabra, porco
No!
rossa, abracadabra. Mm.
I don't even know what I just said. I probably
you
looked
not
at-
bastardized Porco Rosso like that? That's ridiculous.
Wow.
is that food?
It's a Ghibli film. So it's anime.
Oh.
Yep.
You know that better than me, but Mary, I read the messages ahead. They're really kind of a broad general statements or
Okay,
questions
perfect.
for all of us. So where can everybody find you on the internet?
Oh, guys, you can find me over on my channel, Mary Mayhem. It's exactly that, except that Mary is spelled like Christmas. I'm over there Saturday nights. Andrew's with me just about every single weekend. We sort co-figure. We sort geek characters from different IPs into the Hogwarts houses for Harry Potter. I also do Patreon streams. I do the occasional cameo over on Valiant Renegade's channel. You can find me over there sometimes. So yeah, Merry Mayhem, Merry Like Christmas. Just come check me out. There might be.
Where would Spider-Man go? What house would he go to? Like he goes to Empire State University.
He's a Hufflepuff.
So he's no, he's a Ravenclaw.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
First, let's hear this. Hold on. Mary, I have the
He's a
perfect button
Ravenclaw.
before you go. All right, Mary, here's your button that you can talk about.
He could be.
Fight.
But
There you go.
you know, okay, so it depends on the era we're talking about. But I would say that on
Peter Parker is a big egghead.
on whole, well, hold on. I would say on whole, if we're gonna break it down entirely, Peter Parker would be a Ravenclaw with high
Hufflepuff tendencies.
Yes.
Yes, I would grant you the high
We're tracking.
Hufflepuff tendencies, but I would say he's a Ravenclaw with high Hufflepuff tendencies. He's got
Yeah,
all kinds of.
We're in
wit.
agreement.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So, I concur. Yeah, and you guys should totally come check that out because if you love talking geek culture and just getting into geeky stuff or whatever, we do that on Saturday nights over there, and it's an exercise in geekdom, which I am at heart. And I think that we've gotten. I understand the need to get into the fight against woke culture. It's necessary, but sometimes I think we lose the thread and forget what we are at our hearts and souls. And sometimes it's important to get away from the anger and the animosity and the vitriol and just engage in some good old geek fights about, well, this person would go here, and just talk geek culture. It's a lot of fun. I tend to lean towards the Harry Potter stuff, but I also like talking DC and Marvel and in anime and just pop culture in general and sorting those characters. So you should come check me out. If you are a geek, I might make you a sandwich. Who knows? Maybe. Worth it.
Her sandwiches are very good.
Well, next time.
They're all right. I'm not bad.
Do you make pastrami? Because pastrami sandwiches are really good.
Oh, Jeff, I'm a woman. I can make anything.
Okay. Well, I had some pretty good tacos earlier, so if you can top those, we'll be friends for life.
I can make pretty good street tacos. I'm not gonna lie.
Andrew is
Like-
also a woman.
No, my last name's Rodriguez, so I have an automatic passive buff to it. I have a race buff to that, all right?
Rodriguez.
Yeah,
Also make
exactly.
tacos. That's racist.
It's like freaking Ricardo Rodriguez announcing
Oh, God,
Alberto Del
yes.
Rio.
I promise to make
He'd be
you. I
going
promise
like a
to make you
minute and a
sandwich.
half.
Trace is going to be here in a week and a half, and I'm going to make him some baked mac and cheese. Make a request, Jeff, and I will make you food
I mean, baked mac and cheese just sounds tasty.
with bacon.
Have you seen those mixed Rice Krispie Reese's peanut butter cups?
Tell me what you
Know
want.
what I
Script.
want to.
Script, tell me what you want, and I'll make it. Okay.
I don't really want much. But I appreciate it. I just like looking at weird food items, and I'm like, why are they putting this together? This is weird.
Who made this decision?
Yeah.
Hey, Script, the answer is just because America. That's why.
True.
America. America. Well, I'm gonna skedaddle, guys. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks, Jeff. Anytime, man. Just holler and let me know. I have banter. I know how to talk. I know stuff.
She knows how to talk.
Shut up.
You got it, dude. I will. We'll stay in touch. I got all kinds of new stuff I'm bringing to the channel. So
Cool. All right, sounds great.
Have
Well,
a good night,
have a
Mary.
great.
Thanks.
Enjoy, everybody. We'll see you guys later. Bye.
stay
bourbon.
safe.
Bye.
Overkill 161. We have a new Pokemon. Kendosaur, I choose you. Use Grumpy Gym Coach. Folks, would you buy t-shirts of like a WCBS Pokemon parody shirt? Like, if you would, I'll make it. Like, you just got to tell us what you want, because I would make that shirt. We have a good slogan shirt coming out in May, because it's summer. You need some shirts, so we're going to bring them to you. Maybe in the fall, we'll bring you WCBS branded boots, work boots, for the hardworking man or woman. We don't discriminate in size. It's easier to get unisex anyway. Thank you, though, Overkill 161. Now we have a new idea. Enrique has the button he wanted to hear, the detention button, but anything on the Dark Universe stuff, or the Epic Universe stuff, I haven't really been following a lot of the theme parks. If it's the Epic Universe stuff that's over at the UK Universal, I'm there, especially the Back to the Future roller coaster, dude. It's Back to the Future. Like, if you... I know you got a family, but if you and I need to like jet off to Europe to go ride this Back to the Future roller coaster a couple dozen times, you call me. We will go on a moment's notice.
Dude, I've heard that theme park is just freaking killing it. I've
It's
heard
fun.
it's so good.
Like, Universal, to me, feels like you just step into IP land and like, hey, there's Megatron, there's a Minion, there's this character. Hell, you might even see Spider-Man if you're down in Florida. Like, I always liked going to Universal because it was just, if you like entertainment. Disney always just felt like, hey, here's Disney, and if you don't like Buzz Lightyear, you know, well, here's Minnie Mouse, and you're just like, I don't like any of these characters anymore. But did you see that they've started to add the original trilogy Star Wars characters to the people walking around in the park?
Oh,
Yes.
have they?
They're desperate, and that's because theme parks are just very elaborate shopping malls.
You're not
Oh, wow.
wrong.
That's fair.
But
Enrique.
shopping malls that you can't get a nice pair of slacks in. Yeah, it's always got some sort of IP decal on them or something.
You don't want Minnie Mouse, or sorry, Goofy slacks? Ooh, like, that would be...
No, because it's got a
You'd be the
tail
coolest
with them.
kid in
And you just,
school.
what are you gonna? Where you sit on the tail, it gets stuck and everything. Then you get ripped. Then if you sit up too fast and it's stuck in the seat, rips a hole in the back of your pants, and then you're Goofy for real.
That's the whole gimmick. That's how they sell you a $70 pair of pants
That's right.
with bad stitching. Enrique, here's your button you requested.
You had enough yet?
No.
That's another one.
So?
You just say the word, I'll keep going.
Go.
Eeny, meeny, miny.
Mo.
Your mother was a...
Ho.
He was a famous clown.
Bobo. Mitch, cut it out.
I love that movie. When that hits, I need to get that on 4K. John Thomas says, speaking of Zorro, all right, cool. I'd love more Zorro, but Hollyweird only knows one Hispanic, Pedro Pascal. I'd rather see Danny Trejo. As for Potter, I'd rather see AI redneck trailer park version than this.
There is a Zorro series on Amazon that it's shot in Spanish, but it's got an English dub. It's an interesting take, and I thought it was quite decent for an interpretation of what they're doing, because they make Zorro, Diego de la Vega, but they also incorporate some historical Native American heritage in it. And they set it up like one of the natives is going to be the next Zorro, but they actually pull a twist on it. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they do the second season. Because it's it was different, but it didn't violate the details of what that original story was like. They played around with it. He's still, the aloof rich man of California. And then he's got this amazing, costume hat and swordsmanship skills, and serving justice, and bigger mysteries going on with that. So yeah, go give it a shot. You might enjoy it.
You sold me. I just like Zorro.
Yeah.
love that movie. I don't even own that movie, which is terrible.
I think there's like 8 or 10 episodes of it on Amazon if you're a Prime member.
Indeed, I am, Script. Indeed, I am.
Yeah,
Folks,
so
we will be collecting our checks at the end of the episode from Amazon Prime, so that is why that sounded like a commercial. I wish they'd pay us to talk about their shit. That's where I'm watching all this weird anime at night. So, up next, we have our friend John Thomas that says, "Will Ginger Side strike the Weasleys?" Yeah, they'll be black gingers.
It might. I mean, like again, they have not announced the cast for the children yet. There is a likelihood that Harry Potter and his family may be black.
I hope
as
they
for the
are.
green eye things, they'll just digitally change that, and it's not unheard of that black people can have other colored eyes besides brown. I mean, James Earl Jones had natural blue eyes, so I mean that's just one example there. So it's not outside of the realm of possibility. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what will happen in the next few weeks when those kids are announced.
Yeah, I'll follow it just for to hear what Andrew and Mary have to say. We'll definitely have Mary back when they announce the Harry Potter cast as well, because it'll be a fun response. Albatross says this is all probably intentional on the part of WB. What do you have to say to that, Script?
It's all probably intentional on the part of WB. Well, WB is actually taking notes from J.K. Rowling because again, they only have the license to make the show. She still owns it and controls the IP down to every fine detail. So it's hard to say because right now they did not renew their DEI department at Warner Brothers, which is pretty funny. They've basically said they put out job posts. I've actually seen them where they're looking for new people in DEI, but they're never going to interview anybody. They're just going to keep the job posting out and say that they're going in a different direction. And they're going to do that until there's no longer anyone cares about such departments at a studio, which is interesting. So the only people that would be promoting such aspects would be fringe executives with some decent power within the company, but those types will be on a ticking clock. And then, of course, the original IP holder, who has final say rights.
Yeah. I don't know the internal workings as well as you do. That's why I kind of threw that one to you, but we'll see if their plan works or backfires. We don't have time tonight, but I'm surprised at Warner Brothers with this fifth Matrix movie. So I don't know what decisions they're making. But hey, after they made Minecraft, I guess they have carte blanche to do a lot.
They have a lot of IPs in their studio, and a lot of them have been collecting dust. And that is not how you run a production. You should be always making something of your IP and trying to make sure that it's bringing in revenue constantly in between projects. And right now, Warner Brothers has been slacking on that for a good 5 years.
It seems like it, man. Don't they even have the rights to like a Doc Samson movie? Because I'd like to see that.
They've got it's they have Doc Savage, I think.
That's who I meant to say.
That's
Doc
who it
Savage,
is. Yeah.
Sorry.
And yes, because Michael Uslan, the guy who holds the Batman film rights, he has the rights to, I think, Doc Savage and The Shadow film and television rights as well. And because he has a partnership with Warner Brothers, that means that they would get first buy-in, a first option of refusal, if he's able to put together a package for them, or if someone were to come to Michael Uslan with a package and then he signs off on it for it to be pitched to Warner Brothers. That would be one aspect as well. So he has those film rights, even though I believe the rights for The Shadow overall are still owned by Condé Nast. So there's some wiggle room there. But yeah, I'm hoping one day they'll be able to pull the trigger and actually give us some new Shadow adaptations of those classic pulps from the 30s and onward.
You know what I really like about Michael Uslan? He responds on social media to you. It's kind of weird because like he runs his official page, and so I made some kind of comment about like Batman 89, and then he's just there. I'm like, oh shit, okay, so this dude actually pays attention to his social media.
Oh yeah.
He also brought us Batman 89, which is probably top 5 most important movies to me, just in terms of like impact.
Yeah,
I've
and what's
seen
funny
so
is the
much.
only Batman movie he is not a producer on is the Adam West one from the 60s because he didn't own the film rights for it at that point.
He was too young.
He was like a kid, yeah.
You know what though? That is a cool story. If you don't know that story, folks, look it up. Essentially, a Batman fan, and he was teaching comics at like Indiana University, I believe. Because
Yep.
when I was at Michigan State, I took a class on comic books. That's how far back my love of this stuff goes. Even earlier, actually. This was just to take credits. But anyway, long story short, we studied him in college, and they told his story because we read a book that talked about him and how the Batman rights and all that stuff went down. So I've always been fascinated with the story, folks. If you want a cool story, check it out. It's much more interesting than like how a Superman movie gets made, even though I love all the stories of how Mario Puzo wrote scripts and they were trying to cast a million different people, including a dentist. Like
A
the making
dentist,
of both
Clint
of those movies
Eastwood,
are
Warren
crazy.
Beatty. William Goldman really wanted to write the script, but they kept telling him that he has to write Superman for a movie star, and he just didn't think that was the right idea. And then they ended up going with Mario Puzo instead.
God, I still love that first movie.
Oh yeah, it's the only Richard Donner Superman film. Like a lot of people say the Donner Superman films, thinking it's that whole quadrilogy, but no, Richard Lester did 2 of them, and I can't remember who did the 4th one right now.
It's best not to think about it.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
But there is a guy on YouTube who's trying to make that. He's recutting that with all the footage available into a more coherent film. And he did a scene where instead of Superman using his supervision to repair the Great Wall of China, he super speeds and fixes it that way.
That's a fan project I can get behind. Like, fix these movies that really are like. I know this is super nerdy, but when AI reaches a point where you can just like edit any kind of movie, I think I'm gonna re-edit Spider-Man 3 because that movie has like a couple of good ideas, and it's overall pretty shitty.
So everything that doesn't involve Venom. Aside from the overarching like forgiveness aspect, to where the fact that like he even wants to forgive Eddie and like give him an out, but Eddie doesn't take it, right? Like that is very emblematic of Peter as a character. But you could have still told that story. You still could have told that story without Venom.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like the Venom story at all. It just
so you're in line with Raimi. Raimi didn't want to tell the Venom story.
That's what I try to tell everybody out there. It's like, I get it if you're roughly my age and you grew up like in Spider-Man and the cartoon and you kind of remember the comic books and you're like, Venom, Venom, Venom. Yeah, he was a big deal then. He's not really that great of a character after a certain point. Like, Venom's awesome when he first debuts. Venom's really great. And then Spider-Man beats him by tricking him to make him think he's dead on this island. And then Venom just kind of fucks off for like many issues. And it's great because it's like this awesome story and it ends. And then you bring in Carnage and Venom and him team up and it's great. And then that ends. And then Venom, because he's popular, he just keeps sticking around. And that's what... It sucks as a Spider-Man fan, and that's why the first 2 Raimi movies are awesome. It's like, you don't have to worry about Venom. It's almost like an inevitability when I read the books. Like, I like to go back every once in a while and work my way through the series. Not every issue, but I can get through these classic books and then shitty stuff in the 70s, good stuff in the 80s, but then it's the countdown to Venom, because once that character is introduced, everything is different, and because of money, they'll never do non-Venom related shit. Because like Venom should be like a closer of like a 5 or 6 movie story. And then he comes in and he's only around for 1 or 2 and then he should just die. Like, not really die.
Yeah.
So the thing with Venom is that, because I'm both in agreement and against you on this, because it really depends on the quality of the writing. There is a point where Venom does need to go away for a while. However, as somebody who, like yourself, has been reading the Spider-Man comics for quite a long time, and the Venom comics, like his own solo series, for a long time as well, there's a point where he does need to go away for a bit, but as long as the person who brings him back knows what they're doing and does it well, there are really great stories that can be told with the character, and with the character as an anti-hero rather than a villain. Okay, so we're shifting, we're evolving the character from the straight up villain that he was when he was introduced into kind of a, that lethal protector era type hero, or anti-hero rather. and have, Carnage be the main villain or some other character be the villain, whether it's Null, the symbiote god, or somebody else, right? That's fine. That works depending on who's handling it. A lot of it comes down to who understands the core of the character and can tell something fresh with that character. That's something that requires genuine skill and talent that not a lot of modern comic book writers actually have. And that's why you end up with a lot of just kind of like, okay, so Venom did a couple of cool things and then it was meh.
Yeah, but sadly, not a lot of comic book writers in the 90s knew what to do that, because Venom was essentially on par with like Boba Fett before anyone even bothered to do his story. He's just a guy that looked cool, and his entire motivation was essentially he was a symbiote that acted like Peter's ex-girlfriend that was very upset that he dumped him.
Mm-hmm.
And they did, and once they finished off that story arc, they didn't know what to do with him anymore, because he was more of a gimmick as opposed to any ideas. And the editorial and writing staff at Marvel in the 90s were lost. I mean, that's why we got, the Clone Saga and Maximum Carnage and all that type of stuff. They just were like, well, the character's cool looking. He's got cool powers. We got to do something with him. And they never thought to be like, well, let's take a look more into like Eddie Brock's story, like, photojournalist.
Yes, and good Venom writers lean into the Eddie Brock part of that.
Well, the entire origin is told in issue 300 over the course of like 4 pages. At one point when Spider-Man's webbed up and he's like, and he just tells the whole story of Venom. I was mainly talking in movies. Like I said, the comic books, he's fine. I don't have to read all that stuff. But I think and I'm only talking about like in movies and shows, it's when you introduce Venom, you can't go back because you won't kill him and you'll keep bringing him back. And it's just like, it only becomes the Venom show.
Yeah, you're not going to kill the character because the character's too popular to kill off.
Yeah, I just think
you're
it's
killing your cash cow at that point.
See, I think it's a perceived cash cow. Where obviously Venom stuff sells, but Spider-Man doesn't need Venom to sell. That's the thing. It's like,
no, it's an augmentation rather than a necessity.
Technically, Venom needs Spider-Man to sell a bit better, because even when Venom had his own series, it didn't move as well as Spider-Man did.
All right, hold on 1 second. Yes, but that's also an extremely unfair comparison because nothing sells like Spider-Man does. Even when Spider-Man is selling poorly, Spider-Man is still at the top of the charts.
Right.
So that's like, okay, yes, but also context. Right? Because you're absolutely right. Venom isn't Venom, at least in terms of the Venom that we all know and love and enjoy and think looks cool and acts cool and all that, without Spidey. Without that, it's nothing and it's useless and nobody cares. But there's when it comes to the comic book sales, there's still the caveat there because nothing sells. Like, even if you even look at the most recent run for Amazing Spider-Man, which is Zeb Wells, he's the guy that introduced Paul at the behest of freaking Nick Lowe, who is the biggest shit stack ever to be at Spider-Man editorial and needs to lose his job faster than light speed. The book was still selling. Granted, that's also sales to retailers, not necessarily sales to consumers, so like myself or Jeff or you or whoever, right? Walking into a local comic book shop, actually picking up a copy off of the shelf and buying it, bringing it up to the checkout and purchasing the thing. But that being said, overall sales from it, in terms of how Marvel measures it, from publisher to retailer, the sales they're still there, which is ridiculous to think about. A lot of that is nostalgia. A lot of that is people who are like, I've been buying every single issue of Amazing Spider-Man since the 80s without fail, and I'm just going to keep doing it until I die. Right? Like, there are people that are like that.
That sounds so sad.
It does because the book. Okay, so like I have it every Thursday night at 6 p.m. Central with me and my buddy Spencer, who's the editor-in-chief over at Bounding Into Comics. We have a comic book podcast where we talk about our favorite books or our least favorite books from a given week that we read. And we talk about them, whether we liked them, whether we loved them, whether they were just kind of like, this, you could pass on this and it's not worth your time or your money. You know, it's not worth your $4 or your whatever, your $5 or $6, depending on the book. I was trying, both of us actually were trying to like really be like, all right, so Zeb Wells is no longer the writer on Amazing Spider-Man. Let's give this book a shot. The book that was there was an intermediate arc in between Zeb Wells and the new writer, who is Joe Kelly on Amazing Spider-Man.
Like the Joe Kelly came back?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that intermediate arc was just like, it was boring. It's not like it was literally the worst thing ever. It was just boring. It was like, I have no interest in this. I stopped when there was only 2 issues to go on the arc, and I was like, I'm not going to bother. I don't care anymore. It's just so boring. I picked up the issue number 1 of the most recent relaunch of Amazing Spider-Man just to have the number 1. I was like,
oh shit, I missed it.
And I was like, all right, so the story itself was fine. It's definitely not the worst thing I've ever read for Amazing Spider-Man, because that bar is extremely low. I have Zeb Wells and Nick Lowe and Dan Slott and other writers to thank for that. However, I'm like, am I going to continue with this? I don't really have much of a reason to right now. I don't know. Spider-Man is in a bad place right now. And it's in a place that's, and Jeff, you mentioned this on the show before. It's in a place that is super artificial because Spidey, Marvel Comics specifically, has been trying to promulgate this, this narrative when it comes to Peter Parker that really only applied to a very small fraction of his history, and that's the youthful, like, high schooler character, right? Like, I forget what issue number it is because I'm horrible at remembering numbers.
Like 26.
Yeah, it was super early that he wasn't in high school anymore, right? He was now in college.
Marvel even said on the cover, your most requested story.
Yeah.
Like, people back in the day were like, get this kid out of high school. We want to hear more stories of him as he's a little older. This is a false narrative. You're right.
Exactly. And it's a narrative that Marvel Comics has been trying to promulgate for the last, honestly, not just the last few years. They've been trying to promulgate that narrative since One More Day, because where they have left Peter Parker in terms of as a character, not in the literal sense of they're pushing him back into high school, but his character development and him as a person, they have left him as a high schooler. And it's insufferable. It's hard to watch. It's hard to read because you're like, bro, I know you're like in canon, like maybe in your 20s, right? And it's like, why are you still dealing with all the same freaking shit as a high schooler? What are we doing here? Nobody over at the Spider-Man office understands the character at all right now, except, who is it? Colin Kelly? I'm trying to remember his name. I think it was Colin Kelly. A recent, this last year event at Marvel Comics was called Venom War. It was a whole deal, but one of the like side stories for it was Venom War, Amazing Spider-Man. And those of you who are familiar enough with comic books, you know, they'll do like spin-offs and like tie-ins and things like that. And this was a tie-in to this main event. And the Amazing Spider-Man tie-in to Venom War was so well done. I see your message there, John Joseph. You're absolutely wrong. You are flat out wrong. He says Venom War was the worst. You were blatantly wrong. Venom War, Amazing Spider-Man was Spidey. It was Peter Parker at the most Peter Parker that those of us who actually love the character and love him as Spider-Man and love him with Mary Jane that we have seen in forever. And it was clearly a situation where the writer of that book saw the editorial notes from like Nick Lowe and whatnot, and maybe Tom Brevoort, and was like, yeah, I know you all hate Peter and MJ together. I know you all don't want this to be a thing, but I'm going to ignore that. And I'm going to have all of my writing for my tie-in miniseries here be completely the opposite of that. Like, I'm only going to be able to get away with so much, but I'm going to push it to the line as far as I possibly can, to where readers of this book who love Peter and love MJ and who love the two together will understand that I want the two together, and that I think that they're correct in this statement, and that I'm ignoring the editorial notes. It was so obvious. So I completely, John, no disrespect, I completely disregard and reject that statement because it's contrary to the book itself. It's absolutely contrary. If you read the book, you're like, wow, like this person, yes, they're hamstrung by Nick Lowe and Tom Brevoort, but they are screaming at the top of their lungs that they want Peter and MJ together, which is what every freaking blue-blooded Spider-Man fan wants.
I want Gwen Stacy.
Don't say that. Nobody actually wants Gwen Stacy.
Peter Parker wants Gwen Stacy.
No, he doesn't. People have convinced themselves that they want Gwen Stacy. Gwen Stacy is actually boring.
No, I want John Romita to come back and redraw the book. That's what I really want.
Okay, well that's fair, and knowing you, that doesn't surprise me at all. But Gwen Stacy is like, all right, that's nobody actually wants Gwen Stacy. People have convinced themselves they want Gwen Stacy. They have this like nostalgic that they haven't actually experienced because they didn't read those older books.
They weren't alive.
Yeah, they don't actually remember.
Yeah,
they don't actually remember those books, and they didn't actually read them. Amazing Spider-Man films did Gwen Stacy better than the comics ever did. Sorry.
How?
In every single respect, she was a boring character.
I agree she was boring in that movie. I love Emma Stone. It just
no,
she
was boring in the books. Damn it, Jeff.
She was boring in the books. Look, Mary Jane. They all look the fucking same too. If you change
Mary Jane makes Gwen Stacy look like a plank of wood that you could name Brie Larson.
The Black Cat was the better choice in all of this.
No, Black Cat. No.
Batman.
No.
Batman.
Black Cat, I put in the same camp as I do with Catwoman for Batman. That is a genuine toxic relationship, and it's awful for Peter.
Well,
Felicia Harding is not a good person.
He's a fictional character, and I want the stories to be exciting. So when Spider-Man's trying to
I do too, and sometimes you have a fun fling that can make for a good story. No question about that.
But I don't
want him to end up with her.
I don't want him to end up with anybody. Like, if you're going to have him with Mary Jane, cool, but at least have him be cool. Like, I hate One More Day. And Brand New Day wasn't that great, but at least, like, Spider-Man was trying to get a girlfriend and trying to do this and trying to do that. He wasn't like some weirdo with Paul, the guy who banged your old wife.
Paul, I'm convinced Paul is Nick Lowe's homosexual lover because, like, I've never seen a harder, more astroturfed push for a character in my life. Like, the all-new Venom book has clowned on Paul so much. Al Ewing, clearly, and as well as, what the hell is the name of the artist? Is it Carlos Gomez? I can't remember his name right now. I'm blanking. They clearly hate the character of Paul because they clown on him 24/7 and take every single opportunity to take a shot at him. Nobody likes Paul. Literally nobody likes Paul. If somebody tells you they like Paul, they're lying, or they're just the most untrustworthy person on the face of the planet.
Is that your, like, litmus test? Like in the World War II movies, they're like, this, that, like, how do you feel about Paul?
If somebody says they genuinely like Paul, cool. Marking that person down as not trustworthy, and I'm not spending another minute of my life with them.
You just made the list is what he's trying to tell you.
You just made the list! Yes.
I wish I had a clicky pen, but I don't. I just have...
You need a clip. Well, I know. Never mind. WWE is a pain in the ass when it comes to clips. But like a clip of Jericho saying from that era saying you just made the list that would make me so happy.
You know, I thought
I freaking love that era of Jericho. That's my second favorite Jericho era.
Isn't every era the era of Jericho, if you think about it?
Okay, well,
he likes to think it is.
Well, he does, yes.
I thought I had a he just made the list button. I got a Stone Cold button. I got a Vince McMahon.
Screw you! You're fired!
There we go. That's all we can play. I guess I don't have that button. Shit. Well, I guess I'll have to work on it. Our friend Trace XL, thank you very much for your patience. He says, they said they were going to be more accurate to the books with The Witcher 2. We see how that turned out. I'm hoping this miscasting is the worst of it. You never know with Hollywood's sakes, man. You never know.
It's hard to say. Hopefully it's the worst of it. Hopefully it's all of it. But if it's only the tip of the iceberg,
thank you, Trace XL. Yeah, well, I'm an agent of chaos. I just want to see how you react to the bad news of the bad Harry Potter. I'm sorry.
It's rude.
Yes, of course. John Thomas says, "Isn't Rowling signing off on all the castings?"
Yep. She's helping with the descriptions, and then she has her say among the entire team.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, John Thomas. Swift -1 says, it seems like when they want to remake/reboot something classic, their defense is this is more book accurate, just to have something on the original. Or just to justify something on the original. Yeah, to me, that's usually words for, hey, we're just trying to resell you the same shit. And sometimes it works. Like there's some adaptations that do it better than the classic ones. And then
most Stephen King books, yeah.
And then there's sometimes you just can't improve upon it. Like, I know that The Wizard of Oz is a little different than, like, the books, but you really can't. You've tried. Like, The Wiz is its own thing. There's a couple of spin-offs, like Return to Oz and Oz the Great and Powerful, but, like, those didn't have the cultural impact. When, like, you think Wizard of Oz, you just think that. I guess when you have, like, cultural saturation that overtakes the book, like with James Bond, Wizard of Oz, Die Hard. Die Hard's a book. Like, I would never want it to be more accurate to the Roderick Thorpe book than I do the movie. And that's the character. That's its own thing. I don't know, Swift -1. I don't disagree that they use that to justify remaking stuff. Like when they remake The Hunger Games in 5 years and Jennifer Lawrence is back again as the first 55-year-old female action star. Like, that's going to be a big deal to nobody. But it'll probably happen, and I'm sure it'll be more accurate to the book, like, this time she'll use her other arm to pull back the bow, and that's exactly how... Who the hell wrote those books? Yeah, I don't know either. Moving on, though. Shrubbles 08, I did read that one, thank you very much. Justin Proper says, I just saw the title of the stream and I clicked immediately. The series could be amazing, but adding a racial element to Snape, it just seems wrong. I don't disagree. It was like, even though I wasn't interested in this show, I thought, John Lithgow's great. I might watch this for John Lithgow. And I like Nick Frost.
Is it perfect casting? Those are both perfect castings. And same with what's-her-name as McGonagall. Like, those are all actually genuinely, from everything that I have watched, those are all perfect, picturesque castings. And all of a sudden, we get this dude as Snape. That's... Like I said earlier, 1 step forward, 5 steps back. That's awful. That's abysmal. That's a horrible decision. And they should feel horrible about it. They don't, but they should.
Justin Proper, thank you. I'm glad you guys like the title of this and the title card. I just made it for fun. Like, I don't know. I'm in a good mood lately. So I figure, why not make fun of everything equally? Life's a lot better that way. John Thomas says, what are the real odds of getting Sweeney as Black Cat? Not good, but we can all dream. Maybe we need a bigger, better actress. Like, I can't think of an actress that actually looks that part. Like, if you're going to do Black Cat, The only problem is Spider-Man looks like a little boy, so it's going to be really awkward to have Sydney Sweeney looking good and then Tom Holland looking like he's 14 years old. That's going to be
let's
kinda
keep
awkward.
Sydney Sweeney away from Disney Marvel because they'll just ruin her like they ruin all the
Yeah,
other female
they'll
talent.
mess her up horribly.
Like they
We
did
don't
in
need
Madam Web.
Well, that's
worse.
Sony. That's different.
Oh, I know. But I'm saying, like, she should. I don't think Sydney Sweeney should be in a superhero movie.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean a lot of like superficial people are saying she should be Power Girl, but Power Girl is a very thin character. I mean, like overall, like she's just
She's a
another
pair of
version.
boobs. Just
She's just
saying.
another version of Kara with bigger boobs. Which
Mhm.
I'm more of the line of like make her Black Canary because she's got an actual story and she's got things to do and she's got a complicated relationship with Oliver
She'd
Queen.
make a good Dinah Drake.
Yeah. And she's, she also likes to be physical. And guess what? When you're playing a superhero god, you're not doing a whole lot of physical stuff in camera. It's replaced with a digital model. But if you want to have Black Canary and you want to see her do some fights and see Sydney Sweeney do some leg kicks and splits and stuff, that's your character, man.
Sydney Sweeney has already proven herself willing to do research. Like, even if it's just below surface level research, that's more than most actors in these superhero films do or are allowed to do in some cases, because historically, and I will say this, I know we've gassed up James Gunn a lot when it comes to the Superman film. However, he has on record told actors not to look at the comic book versions of characters. Sydney Sweeney has picked up books and said, hey, like, I want to do this. Or I want to try this. I want to see if we can make this scene work. And I'll give her credit for that. Whether or not like that would result and pan out into something that's worthwhile as an actual film on its own, that's another matter. But I do appreciate willingness to look at source material and try your best to adapt source material.
Yeah.
That's still a good faith thing. Whether or not that pans out is another matter, obviously. But willingness to say, hey, I'm going to try and meet fans of this character where they're at, or at least as close to it as I can, because this character means something to people. I'm going to do that. Right?
Yeah. I mean,
there is value there.
To your point, James Gunn only said that to John Cena for Peacemaker.
Mhm.
Like to the Guardians of the Galaxy crew, he said, you can read the books, but we're doing these types of characters. So that's what we do. And then, of course, with Superman, I think the rumor is that he asked David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnan to like read some stuff. And they said, well, we already were before we even got the roles, like before we were casting for it. So we kind of know what we want to do.
I mean, if that's the case, fantastic. Like nothing could make me happier than to know, because again, we mentioned this earlier when Mary was still here and we were talking Harry Potter. I don't expect a one-to-one, an exact one-to-one. However, I expect an earnest, genuine, sincere effort to make a character recognizable to people who grew up with the character and to people who adore the character, right? I should be able to see a character in an adaptation and be like, I know who that is. That's this character that I love. Right? Yeah, maybe one or two things here and there they tweak or whatever. Maybe there's some I guess like narrative beats that are shifted around just to make it work better within the confines of a 2.5 hour movie. Okay, fine. Totally cool. I can understand that. I'm not an idiot. All right. I went to school and I took script writing. I studied TV and film. I understand that there are differences between long form traditional prose, comic book script writing, right? And then screenwriting for the purposes of a hour, let's just say hour and a half to 2.5 hour film, right? Or even further beyond that, a 26-minute or 55-minute TV episode of something, right? Every single one of those
the 60s then.
well, every single one of those adaptations presents a completely different type of thing that you have to do with an existing property in order to adapt it and make it work.
Well, you
for
have to
the audience.
prioritize it to maximize the amount of time that you have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
that's
so
a tricky thing.
you are never going to get a 1-to-1-to-1-to-1-to-1 from one medium to another. You're not going to get that. And it still be something that's of quality objectively within that other medium. You just can't do it. That's why the Lord of the Rings films are still fantastic films, but they are not one-to-one adaptations
No,
of
the
Tolkien's
closest
books.
one-to-one comic book adaptation would probably be Sin City by Robert Rodriguez and Frank Miller, and it's the closest. And the only reason it's not 100% is because Jessica Alba didn't go nude in that movie. That's really it. Like, that's just it. Because they used the comic book as the storyboards. They didn't change any of the lines. There's no official writer on the film because it's from the comic book itself. The next one to follow it up with regards to accuracy and authenticity would be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
And then from there, I mean, heck, even Superman the motion picture, a lot of the stuff that movie invented that was never part of Superman lore before. Like the Fortress of Solitude being a crystalline structure was not in the comics until after Superman the movie. Heck, like even Ma and Pa Kent, their first names were changed multiple times before they were settled down in the Silver Age. I think it was like Ellen or Elgin Kent was the original dad's name or something like that. It's before they went to Jonathan and Martha. But yeah, like again, sometimes a visual medium or a visual interpretation can identify. I mean, when you have really good writers that work in one medium and they're adapting from a different medium, sometimes they can find something in that other medium that the seed is there and they can like give it water and sunlight to make it blossom into a really beautiful, plant. And then what ends up happening is that the medium that inspired that adaptation integrates that adaptation into the medium itself because was such a good, authentic idea that fit the role of the character. And then sometimes you have something that's very, very popular that works in the medium, and you have a hybrid, like for instance, Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, which then inspires, a bit of Batman 1989. And then that movie plus The Dark Knight Returns then gets reintegrated into the Batman comics. And then now you have a very different type of character than what he was prior to that. Oh gosh, what's the other one? Darn, I had another character that where a live action interpretation kind of influenced its development in other mediums, but it slipped my mind. It's getting late for me. It's like 20-1.
Yeah, we're gonna close it out on that. So folks, thank you for watching. We're glad that you enjoyed this Harry Potter discussion. The numbers were up big tonight, so folks, share the word. Hit that thumbs up button to let YouTube know that you enjoy this content, and share us all over social media to help us get to 1 million subscribers. That is the ultimate goal, but it's only 1/10 of what I want. So, folks, I will be back on Thursday with the podcast. I see you guys are liking these videos, so check out our new video on the great toy theft. A Todd McFarlane truck went missing, and all these pre-orders across the country are getting
I watched
canceled.
that video earlier, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
It was fun to make because I was like reading what people were seeing on social media, and people aren't believing the Todd McFarlane story. So, folks, if you want to hear about a story of theft, and some people say alleged corporate cover-up, then watch today's video. It's pretty interesting, if I may say so myself. But be on the lookout. I'm going to clip the Harry Potter segment of this show and put it on our shorts because the Harry Potter stuff was on point tonight, and clearly a lot of people care about Harry Potter. So I always joke. I always try to, deflate it a little bit. But Harry Potter's an important IP, and clearly there's millions of fans out there. So it's just getting started here on the channel to see exactly what people say about this show. So, Script Andrew, anything else before we go? This very long episode?
No, just good to be back, and I am looking forward to a good night's sleep.
Same here, man.
I got an early day tomorrow, but everybody in the chat, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for tolerating the conversation. I know Harry Potter isn't a topic that we often discuss here on the channel, or specifically on this show, but you guys are amazing, and thank you for sticking around for it and listening to an intellectually honest conversation about it. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. whether it's school, whether it's work, whatever it is. I hope you guys stay awesome. Make sure you are back here on Thursday for the WCBS podcast. Make sure if you're able to, you also pull up me and my buddy Spencer's comic book podcast at 6 p.m. Central, Foil Variant on the Foil Variant YouTube channel. And make sure you check out Mary's channel as well on Saturday evenings. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for all your support. You're the reason why we're able to do this.
Also, folks, join me over the weekend. Follow us on social media because Dion's coming to town for WrestleMania, and it's
snap!
Kind of crazy. So I just found that out today. So my whole week has been uprooted in a good way.
Would you call Dion back in the saddle? Nah.
He doesn't like Aerosmith.
Oh, man. He doesn't like Aerosmith or horses?
Nobody's spoken, Andrew.
Man. Nay.
Right.
Listen to this guy.
Hey, it's on same par as yours. So hey, who are we to judge?
Don't disrespect me like that.
Listen, Diaz gonna gallop in there. He's gonna,
get off your high horse, Andrew. That's what I'll say to you.
No, I'll stay up there. It's fine.
Folks, we're sorry for the puns. Have a good one. We'll be back on Thursday.
Sorry.
And then good. I don't even know what to press as a closeout button.
Jeff doesn't speak for me. I don't apologize for the puns.
Did you see that guy accidentally hit that moose with his car?
No.
Holy shit. Jamie, pull that video up.
Oh my God.